Hey everyone, we'll be starting in a few minutes. I'm just grabbing myself a hot drink to keep myself awake because we're starting a little late because it's been so hot today and I'm going to be going into the night because of this one. So I'm going to grab myself a coffee. This is your encouragement to get yourself a nice hot drink as well, or a cool drink if it's really, really warm where you are as well. And we'll start in a few minutes. hello and hi, and also hey and howdy and hello and hi and welcome, and it's lovely to have you all here. Welcome to Valerie the Lovely Italian Artist Synth, Row the Fair Thing Lion, Willow Trees and Middle-earth Marxist, Princess Beck Knight 666, lovely to have you here, welcome in, and Jenny Azarth Ninny 161, and that is everyone so far in chat. But jump in chat, say hi, get your hi, claim your free hi and hello and howdy and welcome today by chatting in chat, and admit that you are here. And then once you've admitted that you are here, let me trap you with the immediate request for money. This is a particularly fundraising focused stream because I will not be streaming next week. It is my birthday on June the 5th. That would be the day of the stream. I'm not going to be working on my birthday. So everything I say today about how this is, hi little Toasty X, welcome to the stream. Now pay me. So everything I say today about about this being work, about me wanting to get paid for doing my job, applies doubly because it applies for this week and for next week, and kind of triply if you think about it, because it's my birthday next week, and that's like a whole extra level of please, if you're enjoying the stream, consider paying for the stream. Welcome to the stream, Vulpix989. Nice to have you here. I hope everyone's had a lovely week. Tell me about it. What have you been up to? I have been the most stressed I have been in recent memory this week. I will be telling you a lot about it probably over the next, say, the first hour of the show today or whatever. You will notice I am in trackies. I am trying to chill. It's very hot here. It's actually why we started the stream a little bit late, is because it was just too warm to be working until the sun started to go down. But it's been very stressful this week because in the organizing against the landlord, we have been trying to get essentially about 200 people to fill out a 22-page housing law form with counterintuitive questions like, do you agree to the tribunal proceeding without an inspection or hearing? And then, so to get an inspection or hearing, you have to say no to the hearing or inspection question and then give your reasons, right? And this has caught at least one non-fluent English-speaking person out, which I'm kind of pissed off about. Middle-earth Marxist, thank you for tipping £3.50 with the message, remember to pay your meowie tax, chat. This, I want to point out, is not an officially sanctioned Sophie from Mars stream tax. I didn't put this in place. This is something chat has come up with. So, Fulpix989 says, I've been very in pain from a chronic condition. I'm really sorry to hear that. That's really terrible. I have chronic lower back problems, which at the start of the mass evictions on my estate with the new landlord flared up the worst it's literally ever been, and my sciatic nerve inflamed, and so I guess I just have sciatica now. Thank you, landlord's name here. Willow Trees, and thank you so much for the £5 donation with the message, guess I can't argue with that logic. Happy early birthday. Thank you very much. So I am turning 30 next week. It's a big birthday. On the day itself, I'm going to be going to a little art exhibition with my wife, which I think will be really nice and chill, cool time. It's a very me kind of exhibition. It's called In Other Worlds at the Barbican Centre. I love the Barbican Centre in part because it looks like a big spaceship, in part because I love brutalism, I love utopianism, I love imagining other worlds, and that's exactly what the exhibit is. So what could be more perfect for me, right? Yeah, not only actually did I have the sciatica flare-up, but there have been, like, reports of... A lot of elderly people live here, so, like, a lot of what we've been doing with filling in these forms has been helping, like, non-fluent English-speaking neighbours and disabled neighbours and elderly neighbours to fill these things in. And, like, several, like, old women have told me that they have like chronic high blood pressure and that it's been exacerbated by this landlord, and I honestly think there is like a strong case to sue for damages here. My nipple is going to come out. That's crazy. I've gotten a little bit. I don't know how much I can talk about my own body parts on Twitch. It's cool being a woman, isn't it? I have grown out of this bra largely, and I've probably would have replaced it a lot sooner if it weren't like my first nice set of lingerie. Like I kind of avoided buying lingerie for a while because there's this like huge transmisogynistic stigma that tells you that like caring particularly about underwear and about shoes are like fetishistic, AGP shit. And I was really embarrassed about the fact I'd done this as well for ages, and then my goodness. And then I talked to other trans women about it, and they were like, "No, I had exactly the same thing." So that's cool. Anyway, I've definitely outgrown this bra, but I need to replace it. But I'm a little bit sentimentally attached. Yeah, the organizing has been quite stressful this week. I don't think it's going to be as stressful as this again for a while at least, unless we do actually face like eviction attempts, because this has been just incredibly stressful, like this big push for this paperwork, and I don't think there are going to be any like hard deadlines of the same kind. Toasty, thank you so much for the £10 dono with the message Dirty 30. Hell yeah. Morrigan the Fae, welcome to the stream. It's lovely to have you here. Yeah, I guess in terms of what am I trying to say? In terms of dono goal today, I would really like to fill out the rest of the bar. I'd like to get to the end of the thing. I will add an extra bonus stream to the intended roster of bonus streams. And I know I'm like super behind on those entirely for the time being. But I will be doing those regular gaming streams soon. If we hit 800, I'll add an extra bonus gaming stream, but I really would like to just kind of generally, as much as people are happy to give, request for people to donate to me for my 30th, because I'm putting it towards a trip over the summer to New Zealand, which will be their winter, because it's where I was born and it's my 30th birthday, and I think it would be really nice to go on a trip to where I was born and see it after all these years, because I haven't been back there in, I want to say like over 25 years. Rose says, Sophie, I just tried to donate and PayPal blocked my account for no reason. That's completely crazy. Did it just fail the payment, or is your whole account frozen? That's really troubling. Chat, please be aware that if PayPal doesn't work, you can use my Throne account, which I also have. Did I add an account, a command for this? I did. You can also use my Throne account to tip me there, but it won't add to the dono total, of course. Middle Earth Marxist says, you're not catching us at our best. Sorry, Soph. Well, the thing is, my partner Abby actually really, really, really hates the heat. Like, gets incredibly dysregulated by hot weather. She's a polar bear. She's supposed to be in the snow. And so, being a New Zealand winter baby, Northern Hemisphere summer baby, but a Southern Hemisphere winter baby, I think it's actually very fitting for me to go, back for my 30th birthday to New Zealand, and I'm leaning into it. So we're going to have a deliberately cold holiday. We're going to try go to the South Island. If I could possibly do one of those tours where you get to see whales swimming or whatever, that would be incredibly sick. A part of me, however, hopes that those have been shut down since my parents did them 30 years ago, because I don't know that that's very good for whales. But I certainly want to go to the snowy areas of the South Island, maybe see some of those penguins. Haven't seen those penguins in a long time. As well as hang out with Tim in Auckland, and generally just get the vibe of this place that I like know intellectually I'm from, have very, very, very vague, fuzzy memories of and no real kind of proper experience of, in a sense. So what was I gonna say? That all is to do with me having money for birthday plans. I will be making a little GoFundMe for it as well, which hopefully people won't be mean to me about. I know GoFundMe has become an incredibly serious load-bearing pillar of Western society, thanks to the American healthcare system. But but you are technically allowed to use it for things that aren't like cancer or getting fired for saying the N-word. Morrigan says, fucking penguins. I'm actually just going to go see the penguins. Oh. We'll fix that. She'll long for the heat. I strongly disagree. I really you have no idea how much she hates the heat. And also when it snowed for like 5 minutes, a few weeks ago, or no, it must be a few months ago now, she just immediately was crying. So I think it's very overdue. Oh, crikey. Sorry, I am working now. I have been so wrapped up in neighbor stuff that time feels like it's going differently. Like, I have met more people in the last couple of months than I've ever met people this fast in my life. And not just met, but gotten to know and heard their life stories and spent significant time with them and hung out with them and stuff. It's a very, very strange time here on the estate. So the update I wanted to give. Oh, I shouldn't do that yet. I should say hello to the VOD watchers. Hello, lovely VOD watchers. It's lovely to have you watching the VOD. I will be reading some of your lovely comments, although there weren't that many in the last stream because it was a relatively underviewed one. But I always appreciate your comments. It's lovely to have VOD watchers checking out the VOD. And if you are regularly checking out the VOD, consider paying for the VOD if you're enjoying the VOD. You can check out the links below and send me money there. And everything I'm saying about my birthday, please birthday present me, thank you. Ro the Fair Thing Lion says there's a penguin colony down the road from me. That's crazy. Has penguins in South Africa? There's a wild penguin colony. Huh. That's a very wide variety of different stuff in South Africa then. Ro donated £2 with the message retry on CC. I am now doing the message. I'm now doing the I'm sure it's fine mental health thing about my surgical site after a much needed shower. What do you mean by the I'm sure it's fine thing? You're trying to reassure yourself? I have also recovered from surgery, not the same surgery. I've had somewhat of the opposite situation, but but I've recovered from facial feminization surgery, so I know some of the recovery anxiety. Because close to the Antarctic, I never think of South Africa as, but it is obviously, isn't it? I just always think of it, I guess, as being. Let's get mapping. Let's go look at a map. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I mean, it's not as close as the... Okay, that validates my... I thought I was going a bit nuts for a second. It's not as close as the southernmost points of New Zealand, Australia, or South America, which, by the way, if people haven't appreciated just how close South America is to the Antarctic, that shit's nuts. But yeah, I can appreciate that. That is actually pretty close. I haven't got it on screen. Okay, I really thought I'd put it on the screen, and I was a bit stressed out because it started on my house because that's the last thing I was looking at, and I was like, oh shit, I better move off that really really fast. But it's okay. Whew. Alfred what? It is this island called Alfred? Alfred Fora. Okay. 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 Anyway, so should we do comments now, or is there update? The main update this week has been that we were just doing this huge paperwork push. I have talked about how I'm in Southwark, so there is a kind of political or like current events update to give, which is that. So I think I mentioned on a previous stream that the local elections happened at the start of this month, May 7th. There were the local elections, and we talked about some like various like takes around all that shit and the leadership challenge and Wes Streeting and all this bullshit. And the big headlines of the local elections was the reform surge. I think Mule was correct to say the big winner in this election has been voter apathy. The green surge as well. And so just like a lot of councils went green. There has been endless reporting about like about how a handful of green councillors have had to quit because they had like work conflicts or they had whatever came up, right? And they had to quit, and therefore the Greens' numbers are dwindling. And literally, like the last I heard about it, 7 reform entire councils had to stand down and lose their overall control because of the number of reform councillors who are just scammers and don't care at all, or didn't realize it was an unpaid position, or hate it as soon as they realize that it's a they hate it as soon as they realize there's some actual like work to do as a counselor. I've already banned this person, the person who was there a second ago, so I don't mind saying about. But like, this is there. There is a really noticeable thing that happened to me past a certain point in transition, where like people were saying a whole other genre of insult before a certain point, and then it started to become really obvious they were having a different reaction specifically of the flavor that they found me quite attractive and then realized I was trans and then started spewing a bunch of shit to try and like harass me and bully me. And I just like it's one of these things that like they don't know how obvious they're making it, but like they have they have this like very obvious flavor to them that you can tell if you've like had a comments section the entire length of your transition. It does shit just doesn't faze me, okay? It's not gonna work. I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. Whatever. So the local elections happened, and I've said this before, but Southwark Council was no overall control because we had this collapse in Labour support. It's been a Labour it's been a Labour borough and Labour council for the last like decade. Yeah, is it a decade? Yeah. And we had this massive collapse in Labour support. We had 23 councillors stopped being Labour, and 22 of them became, my goodness, the woke Greens. And so I've been saying, I might have even said this last week, that the big wait and see for us is that the council is currently arguing over who is properly in charge, and that they were waiting to have their first like big official meeting. Valerie Valkyrie, welcome to the stream. Ren D, lovely to have you here. Welcome in, welcome in. And that once they had their first like their annual council meet, like annual main whatever, they would have to have figured out who is in charge because they can't just carry on being a hung council, basically. And as of yesterday, Southwark Council, my goodness. Um, my goodness. As of yesterday, let's just... my goodness. Have we got the headline here? Gosh, we hope so. The internet's really slow all of a sudden. Oh, there it is. Isn't that crazy? Oh, my goodness. The Woke Green Council. That's, there it is. Well, and the thing that's really crazy about this, in terms of my local organising and my fighting against the landlord, is that the Southwark Greens in particular have all signed a pledge because of ACORN, the tenants union, and it's a pledge to use maximum council enforcement powers against bad landlords. So that's quite cool, isn't it? Isn't that quite cool? Isn't that interesting? I'm sure that will provide some funny results over the next little while. So, I want to read a couple of the I want to read a couple of comments from the VOD watchers. Where are we looking now? Here we go, over here. So, Sam the Anthro says, the blood libel article is so frustrating because it seems to be basically saying, no, if you point out any of Israel's war crimes, it'll hurt Jewish people in the future possibly, or completely ignoring the actual harm Israel has already done to Palestinians. I was thinking the other day about how Israel's rhetoric made me more suspicious whenever someone claims anti-Semitism. Obviously, it's a real issue. I'm not discounting that. But any time I see a news article claiming anti-Semitism happened, my first thought has become, okay, but is it actual anti-Semitism, or did someone just say that Israel's war crimes weren't cool? Similarly, Ryan Phillips said, the burden of being a VOD viewer is that I'm well aware of David Frum and the stale Hasbara that is the new blood libel. The new blood libel is saying that Israel is doing the crimes we can prove they are doing. Yeah, I think this is broadly like the shape of the discussion we were having last week. And like what's just quite hard about it is that like anti-Semitism is a very, very, very real problem. And like basically, like every, perceived racial group on the planet, the majority of people in that group are working class people. So the majority of Jews are working class Jews and are not responsible even slightly for the actions of the ruling class within that group, the owner class within that group, the people claiming to have a state representing that group, and also people who are like chauvinistically declaring that what they are doing is for everyone in that group will worsen the reputation of that group kind of fucking inevitably. I saw so I watched the latest episode of Ezra Klein's podcast, and he's got Yuval Noah Harari on, who I think is a dipshit, but like makes his business on people thinking he's really, really, really clever. So of course he's on Ezra Klein's show. And I was finding the bit I was listening to slightly dull, and clicked ahead a little way, and they had jumped into this conversation about Israel, and I jumped right into the middle of Ezra Klein, massively letting me down in terms of my hope for is he becoming any better, because he was doing the sort of Joe Rogan nod along, yeah, that's super interesting, while Harari was saying people just don't care that Israelis have suffered too. And it was this conversation they were having around nuance and saying that everyone is becoming like completely flat in their understandings of things. And it's just like, it is entirely accurate to levy that criticism at Zionists and say that they are like immune to Palestinian suffering and don't give the slightest fuck about it. And when you level the same accusation at like Palestinians or leftists, Palestine supporters, people who support a free Palestine, like they exist in a context of the opinion columnists, for one, like a bunch of the media class, the ruling class, the literal government, the literal military, all saying Israel is good and turning a blind eye to Palestinian suffering. Right, Valerie Valkyrie, thank you so much for the £3 donation. And if in a like kind of exacerbate no exact what am I saying? Exasperated response to that. They turn a blind eye to like when Israelis are killed or whatever. Their empathy is like turned off for Israelis who are settlers on Palestinian land who get killed. Like that is not that side lacking appropriate nuance. Right? It's like them feeling like they're being gaslit by the whole of society around them. It's so horrible to try and like draw that kind of equivalency, and then like, and I think that bleeds out. I think that that's like it bleeds out into other stuff, and it bleeds out into this anti-Semitism discussion where people start to think of Jews as just like sort of collateral, legitimate targets in the same thing, and that's just not true in the slightest. And no one who is practically no one who is having the conversation about anti-Semitism outside of basically anti-Zionist Jews is willing to like say the solution here is that Israel stops doing evil shit in the name of Jews, and that's like the main way we can tackle this stuff. Someone, thank you so much for the £17 with no dono message. I really appreciate that. We are thank you so much. I'm feeling very excited about my birthday fund. This is really cool. Thank you so much. We've only been going for a little bit. Oh, I've got my 3 drinks, of course. You'll notice I got my orange juice. I've been drinking my coffee. I might have a second coffee even. And I have Dr. Beppis. It's not actually Dr. Pepper. It's not Dr. Pepper. What am I talking about? I started calling Pepsi a long time ago, probably in line with people saying Pepsi as a generally popular meme. But then I... This is ages ago too, but I was like really stoned and I was staring off into space drinking Pepsi, and I said to my partner, Beptune. And I don't know why it tickled me so much. And it's become more and more of a thing. And then the other day I had the thought, Jeffrey Bepstein, and I was really trying to hold that one in for a long time. So, what are we saying? So the estate organizing stuff is going well. I'm feeling really happy about it. I'm feeling really confident about the shape of things, especially with the Greens getting in. We're starting to make progress with like organizing real support for people. Getting all these rent tribunal forms in is good because it means that they won't have to pay the rent increases that were dated to be literally on Monday. So like we've effectively frozen the rent for, I think, over 50 households on the estate. We are working to defeat the 50 eviction notices that are across the estate. Oh, this is delightful, by the way. There's some overlap there. So that's cool, isn't it, right? There are some households where they are trying to increase the rent and kick them out. Like... pay more rent for the time that you are here, and also you have to leave your home. Just absolutely disgusting behavior. Like, these people are absolute scumbags. What was I saying? So I think the next part of the organizing is going to be like a lot more focused on proactive planning for the future and like strengthening our position rather than just what I've been calling like triage, like it's first aid almost, for the people who... Morgana, welcome to the stream, lovely to have you here. It's like first aid for the estate itself, which is my partner Abby has been calling like phase 1 essentially. And with this 1st of June deadline for when the rent increases were, and therefore it's the deadline to get the forms in because then it makes the rent freeze. Um, that's been the massive, like panicky push this week. It's like harder than I've worked in fucking ages. It's been basically round the clock support. I was talking to my therapist this week and I likened it to when I've done charity fundraiser streams in the past, because that's the thing that it emotionally feels closest to. Like, it's not the same set of skills. Certainly it's a lot of talking, it's a lot of like there's been some public speaking, there's a lot of like coordinating different people and different timings, but like it has been the biggest reason it's comparable to me is the emotional reality of like waking up and I'm doing it right now. I've woken up straight into it and it's going and I have to do it right now, and then it's all day, and then at the end of the day I go to bed just as soon as I've signed off from doing it, and I wake up straight back into it again. Um, that's been basically all week. So this week has felt approximately 5,000 years long. But we are moving on to phase two. Phase two is a lot more about going after the landlord, and phase three is about like securing long-term like housing stability for the estate and some degree of like tenant self-management, so that this just doesn't happen again. Like, one of the things that we found is that historically, like a lot of the older residents remember that this sort of shit has happened before when there have been estate sales, and the I think the um that will add to our kind of pitch for self-management to the council, because we'll just be like, yeah, we can't just be dependent on being sold to a nice landlord again, because this will just happen again, because it's happened before and it's happening now, and you should help us to establish some kind of self-management. But like doing things in the next month that like ultimately put pressure on their business model, draw attention to the things that they're doing that are horrible, bring the legal fight to them. We're exploring all these different options, and I think I'll be able to talk about them all like a lot better um, when things are concretely moving, basically. But we have hopefully someone who has been promised for several weeks and keeps on delaying because they're very busy, but someone from a national press publication coming to talk about the estate next week. And once that happens, like, the impetus for both the landlord to give in and the council to side with us will be enormous, because everyone will be looking at them, and the council will know that if um, they don't, support us in the ways that we want to be supported, then everyone's going to be looking at them too, basically. So, Randy says, "Such cool work you're doing. It's very heartening to see." I mean, it's what do I want to say? It's a strange thing. Like, I live in the Millwall area, basically, which is Millwall is the most like well known to be most football hooliganish, most fascist football club in the UK, and I have been having a completely lovely time meeting my neighbors. And like, if I were a trans woman of color, maybe things would be significantly harder for me. But it's also like a relatively diverse neighborhood, actually. But yeah, even with the people who are the most like typical white British Millwall supporting classic Bermondsey people, I've been so extremely welcomed, and like I'm more and more starting to feel like it's just a sorry, I made this, so this is a little build up to me showing you this. It's the Millwall no one likes us and we don't care flag, but but edited to be a meme about my ongoing tenancy struggle here. But what was I saying? But yeah, it's just been really lovely, and just not been an issue, and I increasingly feel like this area of Southwark is somewhere that's kind of part of the historical building up in the English imagination of like the uneducated like scum working class. Like it's this stereotype of like bad working class people, because I know that there just is some of this, like these elements here. Like it definitely is real. I'm not going to say that I've like not experienced like nasty shit from Millwall people here. Hang on, this is the other one. But the this I prefer this one. This is the experience of being trans in the UK, you see. But like I'm increasingly feeling like there is this there is this imagined like bigoted, horrible, uneducated, violent, evil working class person that is propagandized about in the UK to enforce ideas of classism, to enforce class divides, and like I genuinely think that like this area of London has been somewhat put under a microscope by like other more affluent parts of London historically to like feed into that classist narrative. Like I don't know. I've thought this stuff for a long time, and I think that like my organizing experience over the last 2 months has like massively confirmed it for me. Like certainly I've then talked to people about it a little bit, and some of my neighbors have been like, oh, I actually didn't realize you were trans, but they haven't gone you know, they haven't like suddenly turned on me because of that. And and even one of my most conservative neighbors was just like telling me about how one of her oldest friends is also transgender. So I don't know. I think there is a tendency sometimes for like trans people to form bubbles of runaways and strays, like people who don't have good relationships with their families, and some of them are legitimately precarious because of that, because they don't have the same safety net as other people, and some of them are doing just fine and rejecting the fact that they're like objectively kind of quite well off, quite middle class, and a bit afraid of like ordinary poor people. To be honest, that has just been some of my experience. We know she's a furry princess. We don't care. We're actively excited. Anyway, so that's like broadly how things have been going, and it's quite good. It's quite good. I will say, like, to counter some of the stuff I've just been saying, like, today the neighborhood group chat, which has been entirely about organizing against the landlords, like someone posted something in there about like teenagers who are riding around on their bikes snatching phones or whatever, and like it's a real thing. Like there are teenagers doing that. I've seen them do it. I'm not. It would be a an overcorrection towards like towards my beliefs or whatever, for me to try and just like deny that there are like kids snatching people's phones here. But like one of my neighbors suggesting that we ask the landlord for footage from the CCTV cameras that they put up, which we have been complaining about and saying we don't want, to offer the footage to the police. And I'm just like, so we're all united against the landlord and we're all complaining about these security cameras until there's black teenagers in possession of a bicycle? I like, this is like, buddy, what are you doing? So I'm having a little vent about that here, and I hope he never sees my stream. But I also like, I'm fairly comfortable in the fact that like once you're an abolitionist for a few years, I think you become fairly comfortable with the idea that like a lot of people hate the police, and some people are like very deeply ingrained in the idea that the police are a good thing, and so they like they're just not gonna see eye to eye with you about it. Anyway, it's been about an hour. We're about an hour in, so I should probably start with some liberal slop finally. the room is cooling down. I have to keep on reminding myself of that because it's like it's been so warm that I periodically feel like, okay, if it stays this warm, I'm not going to make it through the stream. I will keep on giving you updates if you're interested, that is, on what's going on with the landlord as things progress. And if you have any questions about organizing stuff, feel free to ask them. I very much want to share, want to inspire people, want to encourage people to do stuff like the stuff I've been doing on my estate. Obviously, like, this has been provoked out of a particular crisis that has brought people together. At the same time, like, I've been putting a lot of stuff deliberately into practice that I have learned over my years of writing theory. One second. Writing theory, interviewing people about organizing and activism, and my own like organizing experience. So like it's yeah. I'm entirely welcoming to questions about the organizing stuff. I've just realized I was going to send a message to a neighbor about something, so I'm doing that behind the scenes, but now I'm making it super obvious by just telling you, which seems to be my approach a lot of the time, actually. Oh. What was I going to say? Yes, I was bringing up this page because one of the biggest things that I've been reflecting on is Jane McAlevy's Organizing for Power framework. And this has been something I've been trying to really consciously apply at various stages of what I've been doing. One of the main things is like identifying natural leaders, seeing where the like social connections already exist in a community, especially if the community is already like, or to begin with, is like relatively fragmented and not all like conscious of itself in the way that you want. Like you want that class consciousness in order to fight and win. Ratfrag says, I'm currently fighting my now ex-landlord, or more accurately, the agent. I am constantly reminded that agents are just parasites with no skills or purpose, relying on naivety and apathy to make their stolen money. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's, like, been incredibly apparent for us. Like, there's a whole bunch of stuff which I don't mind saying we are going to be pursuing, like, harassment and intimidation cases against the agents for where they've just, like, absolutely tried to abuse the fact that most people don't know their rights as tenants to abuse and exploit my neighbors, and it's really, really, really nasty and horrible. Yeah, shit just sucks, dude. Was there another thing I was gonna say? Last thought on the organizing, I just wanted to say that we have like, I've said we have these kind of phases to it, and I said like, part 1 is about like fighting back, and part 2 is about beating them, and part 3 is about winning. And this is a distinction I've been finding quite useful recently, so I just wanted to highlight it, which is just like, fight them and beat them and win isn't actually as redundant as it sounds, right? Because you have to fight back in a situation like this by organizing, by taking on some amount of work yourself and making trouble, right? That's fighting, and you only need yourself in order to fight, right? You won't beat them and you won't win if you only have yourself. But if you can inspire others to fight them as well, then together you might win. But if you're only inspiring others and you're still having to be the center of absolutely everything, then you are irreplaceable in a way that makes the structure you are in weak. And you don't want to be in a structure that like centers you and requires for you to be commanding what happens all the time. So in order for you to win, rather than just beating your enemy who you're trying to out-organize, You have to inspire other people to inspire other people. You have to get them to be taking initiative for themselves. You have to get them to be helping others, to be empowered. You have to empower them to empower, right? Like this is the thing. Like, good leaders create more leaders. And you need to, I think, when you find yourself in a situation of like a long-term organizing struggle, you need to think about what fighting means, and think about what the enemy losing means, and think about what you winning means. Because you can apply this same thing to a lot of different, like, you can apply this to small scale stuff like it's happening on my estate right now. You can apply this to big scale historical stuff like times of unrest during which there were revolutionary currents. And I'm defining it that way because in some cases a revolution occurred, and in other cases it didn't, and that's a distinction between like fighting and beating and winning, right? Like, so there are some cases where fascism was defeated, right? And what happened after fascism was defeated was the country was a fucking dumpster fire mess, right? Just a completely like collapsed garbage place, and slowly it was reintegrated into the global economy or whatever. And that isn't winning, right? Because winning is making a good place to be, like making the society that you're in good and long-term resistant to fascism, i.e. Socialist. So, those are my thoughts. Thank you for listening to me ramble on and on and on and on and on. But I know it's been like an hour now, so I'm going to top up my coffee. We're going to start the slop properly. Start the sloppily. And if you find yourself enjoying the stream, remember that it's my birthday next week, and that I love money. That's what my work is famously about, is how much I love money. No, if you're enjoying the stream, remember that I'm trying to get money towards a birthday trip. So I'm going to be back in a couple minutes with a new coffee and an article called The Taco Equilibrium, which I can tell by the tab at the top of the page, used to be called Why Oil Prices Aren't Even Higher. So, we're going to be talking about Trump today. We've got several different takes from The Atlantic about why he's bad, and none of them are the reasons that he's bad. See you in a few minutes. Also, chat, I'm not sure if I pointed this out yet, but Nat got me a lava lamp for my birthday, which I'm very excited about. I've never had a lava lamp before. It's doing really cool shit. I wonder how I can make it so you can see it properly. I know this is not the content you asked for. I don't think I'm going to be able to change the white balance of the camera to see it properly, but I've been having a lot of fun getting very mesmerized by it anyway. And I'll put it back over here now. And we can get on with the stream. Oh. Lava lamp stream. Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean, like. So you're all in front of the lava lamp here. I hope you enjoy it there. And we're going to get into some liberal slop. That's right. You know what's up. You know it's time to go slop mode, everybody. We're having several takes about Trump. And then The Atlantic is quite concerned about birth rates. So it's really cool how everyone's suddenly saying they're quite concerned about birth rates. That's what you like to see, you know, that's when you know society is going really well. Okay, let's start with the taco equilibrium. Oil markets might expect Donald Trump to end the Iran war imminently. That might be why he doesn't. I know that it's like... I know it's often editors who put titles and subtitles in articles, and I know that's why so many Atlantic things will have like a very consistent style of title and subtitle, but it does drive me kind of fucking insane. Like this style of subtitle is so common across liberal slop. Like, here's a little thought for you. Here's my edgy take. It's just like, come on, what's happening here? All right, by Roger Karma, who I actually don't know at all. Oh, no, we're not doing that. What is it? Copy link, and then go to the profile without the archive on. Roger. I don't know Roger. About that AI bubble. Thanks to the rise of Claude Code and other AI agent, revenues are finally catching up to the hype. Okay. That's awesome. Young people are falling behind, but not because of AI. Okay, we're gonna get some big brain ideas today. All right, this is the taco equilibrium. And taco, if people don't know, I didn't know this before because it's only become popular this month, but taco stands for Trump always chickens out, a rule that people are applying prominently in politics, obviously, but also on Wall Street, because you can make a taco trade by buying something that's just been tariffed while its stocks are low, and then trusting that Trump will chicken out and the stocks will go back up again. When the whole world expects President Trump to end the Iran war, I invented the word when. I'm just like an AI. Authentic stupidity. The whole world expects Donald Trump to end the Iran war any day now. Trump keeps insisting that he's in no rush to do so. Through it all, the oil markets remain surprisingly calm. These facts are all related. So remember that this article originally had the title "Why Aren't Oil Prices Even Higher?" which is like I don't want to say that it's a completely ridiculous thing to be asking, because it's something that I've definitely considered. Like, Iran has explicitly threatened $200 a barrel oil in this stuff. And I have been wondering why it hasn't spiked quite as much as it was threatening to. But also, like, I think there are some fairly straightforward answers to it. And some of them have to do with, like, long-term effects that haven't fully set in yet. But also, like, $100 a barrel oil is quite fucking bad. Like, it's historically bad. Like, it's about the size of the what is it, 73 oil crisis. Like, we've been seeing pretty similar numbers in terms of world like economic damage from this to a lot of some of the worst crises. And like, if anyone's paying attention to the price of fucking groceries, shit's insane right now. So there is a certain like implicit comedy to asking like, why aren't oil prices even higher, you know? Like, Trump hasn't fucked it up that bad. It could be way worse. All right. When the war broke out, experts warned that if the Strait of Hormuz remained closed for more than a few weeks, oil prices would spike to $150 or $200 a barrel. The strait has now been closed for 3 months. Yet, the price for a barrel of the most heavily traded type of crude oil sits at about $94, not so far from where it was in early March. Right, but where was it in late February, right? Like in late February, it was around like high 60s. Like, this is a lot worse than it was, and it still also could get worse. Like, okay. I think there are some articles that it behooves us to like read it through, give it a fair reading, and then discuss afterwards. And there are some where it's like quite helpful to proactively talk about how we understand the situation before reading through it, so it's like easier to look at. Million Peaches in chat. Welcome, Million Peaches. Lovely to have you here. Million Peaches saying it was like 110 a week ago. Yeah, I mean it goes. Hang on a second. Let's just get oil prices up. It's still bouncing around between like 95 and 110 a lot of the fucking time. And yeah, okay, it's leveled off around 90 here. I've got WTI and Brent either side of 90. But like, it's consistently been like quite fucking high. Anyway, I think it helps us to like 67 in February. Thank you. Yes, exactly. I'm going to plug my links to buy myself time to remember the thought I was having. Everyone, if you're enjoying the stream, please consider paying for the stream. You can subscribe or cheer or donate directly using Command Tip. So if you're having a nice time hanging out here, please remember that this is my job, that I am quite poor, that I need money to live, and also that it's my birthday next week. So please, please, please use Command Tip or subscribe or cheer or go to my Patreon. All the different ways to use to give me money. If you want to, please do. And I've remembered my thought, which was... oh my god, why am I so forgetful at the moment? I think it's because I've been so rushed off my feet with all the organizing stuff. I'm sorry about this, chat. Okay, an analysis of the current situation regarding why doesn't Trump just end the war? Okay, so Iran has used most of its ability to escalate in the war so far. Closing the Strait of Hormuz was essentially its biggest option to escalate the war and do damage to the other side that the other side didn't have control over. But keeping the Strait of Hormuz closed has like continued to hurt its enemy very significantly and has given it enormous negotiating leverage. Trump has the ability to accept a peace plan basically whenever, and therefore effectively de-escalate to the point of ending the war. This assertion that like the markets are calm because they feel like he'll just end the war any minute. He can keep the markets calm by keeping the impression that he's just going to end the war any minute. But, like, we know that they're very seriously exploring their military options. Now, their military options suck. Their military options suck really, really badly. The one option is trying to forcibly reopen the Strait of Hormuz. This is going to involve, if they attempt it, a truly ungodly massacre of American troops. Like, To effectively do that, they would probably have to surrender just right off as like already blown up an enormous number of military assets and just like feed troops into the meat grinder quite continuously for a long time in order to occupy like either like islands or realistically enough of the coastline to ensure that they weren't going to get hit with long range missiles. And even then, like we've seen the kind of range that Iran and the Houthis and Hezbollah all have, and like they won't be able to meaningfully protect themselves from rocket fire even just by occupying the coastline. So opening the strait, in terms of military action they could take that would change Iran's negotiating power, that would make it softer and more willing to give in to their demands. Okay, opening the strait, not looking good. Like really deeply not looking good. Nuclear dust. Nuclear dust. The nuclear dust option. Finding where Iran keeps its fissile material and grabbing it, realistically probably destroying it, maybe extracting it. Not entirely sure that it matters, like that uranium matters that much to the Americans that they need to like get it out of there. In order to do this, some of their proposed plans involved getting inside of Iran and then building an airfield inside Iran whilst under fire. It's extremely likely that like the two missing pilots story from, was that only last month? Fuck, everything's been so bizarre. The two missing pilots story was very likely actually them trying to what am I trying to say? Trying to get the uranium out of Iran. And their expenses on that were absolutely enormous. Like they did some of this like insane landing and then building shit while landed. They built like 2 helicopters, both of them got destroyed. Again, very similar logic to what I was saying about the Strait of Hormuz. Like they did just write those off from the beginning as fucked. They even set fire to some of their own equipment when they left. But like it's not a good looking option. They're extremely unlikely to be able to bomb the stuff that we're talking about, because like a state the size of Iran just is capable of building like secure facilities deep enough underground that they're just not going to get easily bombed. So yeah, in terms of their military options to meaningfully change Iran's negotiating power, there are those 2 options, and then there's just resume general bombing, which like the whole world is really pissed off at them for that at this point. Like everyone else on the planet is just really fucking sick of America's shit. And so it would put pressure on Iran. It would put pressure on them to come to the negotiating table more, because more people would be dying, and it wouldn't be the same kind of pressure as changing their actual assets, like with the Strait of Hormuz or with the uranium. So, okay, having run through all this, there's my general analysis of Trump's position right now. It's a shit position. And he knows that if he tries any of this stuff, then it's going to go quite badly, and probably, if we are entirely focused on markets, probably yes, the price of crude oil is going to massively spike if he demonstrates that Iran's hold on the Strait of Hormuz is really ironclad, like really the American military can't do shit about it. Okay, that was a long ramble. In chat we got Million Peaches agreeing that very much definitely yes. The 2 missing pilots story, as it was reported, was in fact them trying to get the uranium. Yeah, I'm really sure it was. Princess Backnight saying, "What if we could just get surrounded by a I don't understand Wololo. Sorry, never mind. Let's go back to the article. I have a fly by my screen. This sucks. Okay. So that's broadly my analysis of Trump's position right now. Let's read Roger's take on this. When the war broke out, experts warned that the Strait of Hormuz, if it remained closed for more than a few weeks, the oil prices would spike to $150 or $200 a barrel. The strait has now been closed for 3 months, yet the price for a barrel of the most heavily traded type of crude oil sits at about $94, not so far from where it was in early March, shortly after the war broke out. Even after Trump's latest declaration in yesterday's cabinet meeting that he felt no pressure to reach a peace deal, quote, "I don't care about the midterms," he said, crude prices jumped only 2%. The math just doesn't add up, Rory Johnston, an oil markets analyst who writes the widely cited Commodity Context newsletter, told me. For people like myself who spend all day analysing this stuff, we're looking at prices wondering, am I going insane? What's happening? Part of the answer is that the United States and other countries have dipped into their oil reserves to make up for some of the lost supply. But that can't fully explain why oil prices have remained as low as they are. This is one of the things I was alluding to when I said about long-term effects, to be clear. Okay, sorry, I don't know Age of Empires. Penelope Pepper, welcome to the stream. What a wonderful and charming username. They are also suppressing the high prices by exhausting the strategic oil reserves, which are, of course, running out too. Right, here we are. But that can't fully explain why oil prices have remained as low as they are. The more important reason has to do with investor psychology. The price of a barrel of oil reflects not just physical realities today, but expectations about what the market will look like in the near future. For the past 3 months, the global oil market seems to have been operating under the assumption that, before too long, the Strait of Hormuz will reopen and oil will start flowing again. That assumption is rooted in a deeper underlying belief that Trump will inevitably back down once the economic pain gets high enough. This is the so-called taco theory of Trump's decision-making, as in, Trump always chickens out. The market has correctly realized there's an audience of one who will determine the outcome of this, and that's Trump. Arnab Datta, a managing director at the think tank Employ America, who specializes in energy markets, told me. Among traders, the assumption is that the pain can only get so high before Trump retreats. Do I agree with this? I'm not sure I agree with this. Yeah, like there's a lot going on here, and I think I'm going to try to hold my comments about like the psychology of the stock market and the like emotional relationship between investors and the price of oil. I'm going to try and hold them until the end of the article, but okay, I don't quite agree with the assumption to begin with. The pain can only get so high before Trump retreats. I think that I think it would have to get very, very, very significantly high, and I'm not sure he would retreat at that point. I think he might do some extremely whack shit that would make everything way, way worse. The logic turns out to be dangerously circular. Prices are low because investors expect Trump to end the war before prices get too high. But because prices are low, Trump faces less pressure to end the war. In fact, the president seems to have figured out that he can calm the oil markets simply by gesturing at the prospect of a peace deal every so often. Of course, a peace deal or a new ceasefire could still be announced at any moment, but the dynamic between Trump and the markets, call it the taco equilibrium, is what has kept the war going longer than almost anyone expected. As a general matter, the belief that Trump will back down in the face of economic disaster isn't unfounded. After Trump announced his Liberation Day tariffs in April 2025, the stock market lost trillions of dollars in value in a few days. Then, as the tariffs went into effect, bond investors began selling off US Treasuries, sending interest rates soaring. A mere 13 hours into his new trade policy, Trump had backed off and announced a 90-day pause on the tariffs, citing the fact that markets had gotten, quote, yippee. Interest rates fell and the stock market experienced its largest one-day rally of the year. Row the Fairthing Lion, thank you so much for gifting a tier 1 sub to Penelope Pepper. Penelope Pepper, congratulations. You now have, you're going to have a little, is it a Mars rover, maybe? Oh no, they're in order, so it would be a Sputnik subscriber badge. You now also have access to tier 1 Sophie from Mars emotes, including some of my own astrophotography. Chat, please remember, if you're enjoying the stream, to consider paying for the stream. You can subscribe or cheer or donate directly using Command Tip. I've been streaming for about an hour and a half now, and I'm doing my job, and I'd like to get paid for doing my job, and I'm also quite poor. And also, it's my birthday next week, so there's just so many good reasons to support the stream. And also, the thing I really wanted to remind you was, if you have a Prime account and it's linked to your Twitch account, you can give me a Prime subscription. It won't cost you any money, but it does give me real money, so consider that also. Investors who had bet that Trump would blink made a lot of money. In the following months, a version of this dynamic would play out again and again. A new consensus view emerged on Wall Street that investors should respond to Trump's threats by not by selling, but by, quote, buying the dip and profiting when he inevitably backed down. This tactic became known as the taco trade. Then, on February 28th, the US and Israel struck Iran. The price of a barrel of Brent crude, generally considered the global benchmark for oil, spiked from about $70 to almost $120 in a little more than a week. But then on March 9th, Trump announced that the conflict was very complete. So here Roger is just telling us the history of the oil prices being manipulated in real time by Trump's comments. That's fine, I guess. And that the strait had been reopened. It had not. Oil prices fell below $90 a barrel. The taco theory appeared to have been vindicated once again. Except Trump didn't actually follow through this time. The war dragged on, oil prices began creeping up again. They didn't eventually topping 110. Okay, this is a slightly warped history of this stuff. They shot up to around 120 when the war started. When he said it was very complete and the strait had been reopened, they didn't creep back up after that. They honestly shot back up after that. It was a very incredibly cliff face sudden drop off when he said it's over, we've opened the Strait of Hormuz, the war is done. And then it was over the next couple of hours, it rebounded to worse than it had been before. On cue, Trump announced that his administration had very good and productive conversations with Iran toward ending the war. Once again, the price of oil dropped, this time to about $95 a barrel. This pattern played out repeatedly, rising oil prices followed by an announcement of an imminent peace deal, followed by falling oil prices, followed by the war not ending. The taco theory turned out to have two core limitations. First, it can become self-negating. Oil traders assume that higher oil prices will force Trump to end the war. But that assumption is what keeps the price of oil lower than it otherwise would be. Second, the theory can be easily gamed. Trump probably understands that the markets expect him to checken out, so as soon as prices start rising, he can act like he's about to yield and everything will cool down. When prices fall, the traders who bet against taco will lose big. They'll think twice about making the same bet again next time. So, we end up in this endless merry-go-round, Johnston told me. Prices rise, Trump talks about a deal, prices fall, and then Trump suddenly feels like he actually doesn't need to make the deal. This strategy, analysts assured me, can't last forever. Markets are starting to catch on. Johnston pointed out that the impact of Trump's peace announcements on oil prices has been diminishing over time as traders begin to recognize the pattern. Yeah. Even more important, the law of supply and demand will eventually become unavoidable. Countries are running through their stockpiled oil reserves quickly and could begin to exhaust them over the next month. At that point, there won't be enough barrels to go around, and buyers will begin bidding up the price of the remaining ones. It's a ticking clock, Gregory Brew, the Eurasia Group's senior analyst for Iran and energy, told me. We're losing 13 million barrels of oil every single day. eventually that reality is going to set in. And when it does, prices are going to rise very, very fast. Yay! Why is the stock market this gullible, lol, says Valerie the lovely Italian. That's what I'd like to discuss a bit at the end. I think that's, at the end of this article, I think it'll be useful for us to talk about, like, what, about psychology and the stock market a bit. Okay. Trump could also start feeling other forms of economic pressure. The April US inflation report showed that prices were rising at their fastest pace since mid-2023, thanks largely to the fallout of the Iran war. This made bond investors nervous. Higher inflation is extremely risky for the holders of government bonds because it creates the risk that any debt paid back in the future will be worth much less than it is today. Many bondholders therefore responded to the report by selling their US treasuries. This in turn caused the interest rate on government bonds to rise to their highest levels in nearly 20 years. Great work, Donnie. Just really good stuff. A bond sell-off lowers the price of bonds, which mathematically causes their yield, the interest rate they pay out, to increase. Equity investors have been ingesting large amounts of hopium. Oh my god. Oh my god. No. Large amounts of hopium that any day now Trump will come to his senses and call the war off, Jared Bernstein, the former chair of Joe Biden's Council of Economic Advisors, told me. But bond traders generally don't have patience for hopium. Please stop. Please, Pokemon, go the fuck home and stop doing this. Please. They are much more likely to respond to what's actually happening right now in the economy. Even chaos in the bond market, however, doesn't seem to be affecting Trump as much this time around. The same week that Treasuries hit a record high, Trump declared that he had ordered his staff, quote, not to rush to reach a settlement with Iran. For now, the taco equilibrium continues to hold. Okay, chat, what do we think of that article? Give me your thoughts. How did you find that to be? Did you have as nice time reading it as Roger Karma did writing it? Probably not. I do like this picture of Donald Trump, as Janus, the god of two faces. Okay, so I said we talk about psychology and the bond market. I think that something that is going understated here, which is very classic because it's liberal slop, is an acknowledgement of the working class and a ruling class. And in particular, acknowledgement of ruling class solidarity and class consciousness. The ruling class, generally speaking, have incredibly solid class consciousness and incredibly, conscious class solidarity. Like, they know that they're looking out for themselves, and they talk all the time about greed, and greed is good, and at the same time protecting their class of people from poor people often overrides even their rational self-interest or whatever kind of lone wolf view of the world they would claim to have otherwise. I think there is some amount of class-conscious solidarity going on among investors in oil, right? People who are heavily, literally invested, but also, emotionally and to some degree ideologically invested in the American religion of oil. I think there are a significant number of people and of institutions who are keeping their money not just in U.S. Treasury bonds, but also, in the oil markets and in the related stocks to the American control of global oil trade. Because they know that flinching will give Iran a ton of power. There are a bunch of these people, I think, who are quite aware of their roles in imperialism. I don't think that they have necessarily a complete analysis. At the same time, I try to make a point of not underestimating our ideological enemies too much. people often try to argue that they have a different set of facts, or looking at looking at a different world in some kind of way. And actually, I think they just have a different set of morals. Like, there are a lot of people who actually understand materialism quite well, and they are materialists with bad intentions. And those are some of the scariest fascists on earth. I think that, God, I'm so warm right now, chat. This is crazy. Um, unless I can figure out a way to have like a fan blasting right on me, while like not disturbing my microphone at all. I think I just need Twitch to change its terms of service, or I'm just gonna have to do the liberal slot paddling pool stream I was talking about last time. Um, so I think the psychology of the bond market often talks with the underlying assumption that the market loves American imperialism and all of its hideousness, and doesn't acknowledge that like there are quite conscious decisions that people are making, that's not just like an implicit part of the human experience, right? And so like Row the Fair Thing Land says liberal rags need to be banned from using online slang, I swear to God. It is really, really frustrating, especially like a guy who is literally like a Biden economic advisor. It's so upsetting to see that they haven't learned the lesson from Hillary. Please, like, yeah. Pokemon Go, think about what you've done. Why is the stock market so this gullible? It's mostly AI piloted. I think there is a lot of AI going on in the stock market for sure. I think that's another thing as well. Is just like in this article he highlights the feedback loop a little bit, and I think that like there are other and more feedback loops to consider. So like them trying to not show that they're gonna flinch to Iran, I think that's quite important actually. Like a quite important conscious part of their thinking. And I think that like I guess what I'm trying to get across is that America is a country at war right now, and even if things are relatively comfortable, things have gotten like economically scary, and the idea that like people are just making these calculations like Trump's gonna chicken out, and they aren't making any kind of calculation that like involves the agency of Iran at all. Like I think there is some quite conscious thought into the idea that like if they panic, if the market looks scared, then like that would give Iran enormous leverage. Million Peach is saying, yeah, most large volume trading is entirely automated these days. If your trading algo doesn't take into account Trump's bullshit, you'll lose money. Yeah, I think like that's a good example of where like so many things have fallen under the blanket umbrella term of AI. But like it has been the case that stock market trading is largely algorithmically driven for quite a long time. And not meaning to get too close to like Nick Land's shit about capital being an alien AI that's ruling the world. Like the stock market isn't just a whole bunch of people playing for an audience of one, but like there are times when Trump and the stock market are just two entities in conversation with each other. So yeah. One thing I'll say in praise of the article, I know this is rare on the liberal slop stream, but one thing I'll say in praise of the article is that as I said, don't like when people assume too much stupidity of our ideological enemies, and I think that like acknowledging that Trump is aware of this stuff and like consciously playing with this dynamic is a good thing to do, because like you know, it's not it's not doing like insane QAnon trust the plan, it's 5D chess shit. Like it's not claiming that Trump is like some kind of like secret genius in his maneuvers. But it's also not claiming that he's like completely like literally brain dead, which a lot of people are like far too quick to do. Okay, it's a very, very Trump focused stream today we have. So we have another piece from our dear friend, our dear friend David Frum, but it's disappeared. What have I done? I've done something silly. Okay. No, it's okay. I have it here. We have a piece from David Frum, and I think it's probably sensible for us to go on to that as our next Slop article. Both because David Frum is, of course, a genius, truly inspired, truly one of the writers of all times. I, like, I'm not going to be writing a video essay about David Frum the same way that I am about Ezra Klein. He's such a bad writer, it's actually shocking. There's just like, I just have nothing good to say about him. We have a piece about Trump. We have 4 pieces of about Trump to look at today. The second one by David Frum is called Why Trump Lost. So it's talking in the past tense about the Iran war. It's declaring it to be already over. And so I feel like it's a natural progression for us to look at another Trump-Iran piece. Before I do that, I'm going to say that if you're enjoying the stream, please, please, please consider paying for the stream. You can subscribe or cheer or donate directly using command TIP. That's !TIP to bring up the donation link. And yeah, next week I'm turning 30 and I'm planning to go on a little trip during the summer to New Zealand, where I was born, and see the place I was born for the first time in over 25 years, because I left New Zealand when I was very small. And I think it'll be quite a fun experience as I open a new chapter, since everyone insists that 30 is a very, very important age. I feel like I've been preparing for being 30 for a while. Like, I've been learning to cook really well, learning to like budget and plan my like food shopping. I've been learning about the fucking economy. The last 2 months, because of this fucking landlord, I've been learning loads of housing law. No, but I genuinely, like, I think that like a lot of the things that people generally tend to discover in their 30s about being alive as a human being and being an adult, I feel actively quite excited for, and already like I'm quite into. So nonetheless, I do like big round numbers. If you also like big round numbers, they're perfect seg. You nailed it, Sophie. If you also like big round numbers, you can inflate my number, making it big and round, by using command TIP. Okay. Which of my 3 drinks do I need to drink for my throat to feel better for more talking? Oy. Valerie the Lovely Italian says, I've just learned about the economy, not a big fan. Next time you should learn about wind turbines. Because they are a big fan. Why Trump Lost by David Frum. The president failed to deliver on his Iran bluster and in the end fooled only himself. So, spoiler for this article, chat. The barely literate David Frum today would like to tell us that Trump is bad because he's crazy, because he has personality defects. It's a really good article. We're all going to have a really, really cool and good time. In this article, he will be arguing that the Iran war went badly because Trump is bad, because of his bad personality, and not because invading Iran was an objectively stupid thing to do, as evidenced by the fact that no previous US president attempted it. As evidenced by all the previous US presidents who talked a bunch of shit on Iran but knew that you can never ever under any circumstances try to attack it because it's a terrible idea. Shit's so cool, dude. All right. Oh, pardon me. Oh dear. This, by the way, chat, this article was featured in the One Story to Read Today newsletter. You can sign up for it there if you want. The first surprising thing about President Trump's impending defeat in the 2026 Iran war is that he already fought and won a successful war against Iran last year. Will we say he won the war last year? I can see an argument. I'm not gonna get super shitty about that one. I think you can make that argument. In June 2025, US and Israeli airstrikes badly damaged the Iranian nuclear program. That one I will disagree on. In 12 days of bombardment. Exactly how badly remains controversial. Well, there you go. But they didn't do nothing. If Trump had quit well ahead, he could have banked his gains from last June as a solid, if imperfect, win. Million peaches in chat saying, It's a very pointed there. Chat, if you're enjoying the stream, please consider paying for the stream. I'm doing work right now, and it's nice to get paid for doing work, and I'm trying to save up for my birthday. Please? If I ask like that, does it work better? Please? Okay. The second surprising thing about Trump's impending defeat is that he does not seem to have cared at all about the only evident reason to resume fighting. In 2026, the Iranian people's rebellion against their brutal oppressors. David Frum and Ross Douthat share a chromosome. Like, I do think they are, like, some kind of highly similar, maybe, like, 2 generations divergent paleo chud. Like, they are not... They're not MAGA chuds. They're both, like, creatures from a bygone era, but they're very much both fucking creatures. How are you saying this shit, you absolute loser? Okay. The only evident reason to resume fighting in 2026, the Iranian people's rebellion against their brutal oppressors. Dude, come on. Just, like, come the fuck on at this point. It's just, like... The Iranian government copped to killing 4,000 people during those riots. The U.S. Secretary of War said they killed 40,000 people. Like... If they're at this point, like, I was very against people saying that there was, like, interference when it was still ongoing, because I was just like, there's just a lot going on. It's very hard to see what's happening right now. And then they launched the war and started citing 40 bajillion thousand people dead, 40,000, 50,000, 60,000. Like, the American number is absurd. And the Zionist number is higher every time you check, like a fucking airplane ticket. They're brutal oppressors? Us? Yes, exactly. Okay. Trump has never given any evidence of caring about Iranian democracy or human rights. He promised the Iranian people help is on the way on January 13th, but military operations did not commence until thousands were dead, and the rebellion was already effectively crushed. During military operations, Trump made clear that he sought a deal with the existing regime. He made no effort to support or cooperate with Iranian dissidents before, during, or after the uprising. He very explicitly said he gave a bunch of guns to the Kurds. He was actually very explicit about this. He said he gave a bunch of guns to the Kurds, so... Victims of communism type counting. Yeah, it really, really is. Yeah, exactly. Like, there are There are people working to produce propaganda for this shit to try and like literally people who are like aligned with the Shah, and then there's the Zionist number where like they've just picked a number basically. It's absolutely nuts. The third surprising thing about Trump's impending defeat is that even he himself seems to never have understood why he went back to war against Iran. What exactly did he think he would achieve? He kept saying that he wanted to ensure Iran never developed a nuclear weapon. Pardon me. He also insisted that he had effectively prevented it from doing so in August. He seemed to genuinely believe that claim. Yeah, because they're showing him like videos, they're showing him like a hype reel, like non-stop. His daily briefings are always just like the same shit getting blown up from different angles. Any new stuff that they destroy in Iran, they tell him about it like 50 more times, and they like hype it to hell. Like, I do think he has like a very skewed picture of what's going on, and that's another factor that should be like seriously considered when we're talking about stuff like the taco equilibrium. If so, why resume the fighting? If, however, those words were wrong, then why not simply hit the nuclear sites again? Why the need for this bigger war? I think that part of that, like, again, why not hit the nuclear sites again? I mean, he probably does believe that they blew them up completely. You know? Sorry. I want to go back on that. Not completely. Like, he probably does believe that they've done really significant damage and probably has some understanding that there's more to do, but it's like much harder or whatever. I don't know. Why the need for this bigger war? Trump started the February 28th war for reasons of personality, not strategy. Here we go. He is on his way to losing the war for the same reasons of personality. Trump is arrogant. David Frum loves a fucking list. Like, this article, by the way, is like really quite short, and someone in chat earlier was saying that the previous article, because the guy's an AI guy, it was just like from a prompt. Honestly, I would expect that from David Frum more. Like, he's such a lazy writer. Trump is arrogant. Think how often Trump mocks his predecessors as dumb and praises himself as smart. Those predecessors, from Jimmy Carter through Ronald Reagan to Joe Biden, all had to ponder military responses to Iranian terrorism and aggression. Trump is not calling Reagan dumb. Like, Trump isn't calling Reagan dumb. He literally plagiarized Reagan's campaign materials. He loves Reagan. And also, if we're talking about, like, if we're trying to then go back against this, like, these previous presidents were dumb, citing Ronald Reagan and Joe Biden. Whee! Anyway, his predecessors had to ponder military responses to Iranian terrorism and aggression. They all ultimately decided not to wage a major war against Iranian national territory. Yes, it's a really stupid thing to do. Among prime deterrents to action, the Strait of Hormuz problem. Trump apparently decided that a problem that was too hard for everybody else would magically disappear for him because he is tough and growls in his official photographs. Trump is reckless. Trump is not a plan-ahead guy. He plunges into desperate adventures without any clear endgame in mind. Someone, thank you oh my goodness. Okay, nice. Someone donated £26 and 16 pence, and that has brought us to 666.66, which is 83.33% of the total goal. So a big round number enjoyer for sure. Trump is reckless. Trump is not a plan-ahead guy. He plunges into desperate adventures without any clear endgame in mind. What really was Trump's plan on January 6th, for example? After Mike Pence was seized by rioters and forced at gunpoint to recite the magic words Trump wanted him to say, what was supposed to happen then? The 81 million American majority who had voted against Trump in 2020 would submit, the military, CIA, and FBI would follow blatantly illegal orders. In 2021, Trump provoked In 2021, Trump provoked violence and hoped it would all somehow work out. He followed the same approach again in 2026. I think it's worth saying that, like, with something like January 6th, his logic was... Is it fair to say he provoked violence and then hoped it would all just work out? Kind of, right? But that's complicated because he provoked violence and he earnestly believed to some degree that the vast majority of people were on his side, the silent majority. He didn't think it would be just a big crowd at Capitol Hill. He thought it would be like across the country, and it would like spark like riots of his people coming out to support him and fight for, you know. It is recklessly promoting violence, of course it is, but like, I think there's just, I don't know. Shirara, welcome to the stream. It's lovely to have you here. Just got a Harry Potter Audible ad before this. Proud of someone for the cool number. Yeah, yeah, it's good. January 6th, 2, back in the habit. It's good. Okay, let's carry on with the article. Oh no. Coffee makes me sleepy. Trump hates procedure. A lot of the apparatus of the modern presidency exists to force confrontations with unwelcome realities. Cabinet officers are confirmed by the Senate to assure the country that major offices are filled by people of character and competence. Okay, all right now. The National Security Council is supposed to process challenging data to ensure that the president receives necessary information. But to run the Department of Defense, sorry, David, it's the Department of War now. Actually, Trump nominated and Senate approved Pete Hegseth. Sorry, Trump nominated and the Senate approved Pete Hegseth. Okay, gotcha. Instead of choosing a national security advisor to replace Mike Waltz after Waltz's resignation on May 1st, Trump tapped Secretary of State Marco Rubio to take on the role. But to double up that particular job dooms the job not to be done at all, especially because Trump has shriveled in the NSC's staff and subjected it to loyalty tests demanded by his most screwball supporters. Trump is panicky. For all his bluster and boasting, Trump cannot take the heat. Presidents who believe in their decisions ride out bad polls. Trump panics and reverses course. Trump has been signaling since mid-March that he wants an end to the Iran war at almost any price. The Iranians have read those signals. For all the damage the US military inflicted on Iran, the Iranians seem to have gambled that they would outlast Trump. They've been proven right. Trump is gullible. As Trump's present Secretary of State observed back in 2016, Trump is most fundamentally a con artist. But Trump is often a self-defeating con artist who falls victim to his own con. Trump demanded unconditional surrender from Iran. Instead, he's negotiating an exit that concedes most of Iran's demands and leaves Iran in a more dominant position over Persian Gulf oil traffic than occupied before the war. But Trump seems genuinely to have convinced himself that he's won a mighty victory, and he seems truly baffled that others decline to endorse his flim-flam. I hate everything about the way David Frum writes. It's just like, there's a rhythm. There's a rhythm to it that I dislike. There's often like a redundancy of the way he uses words that just comes out really, really clunky. Coffee makes you sleepy? No, it was a joke from Nirvana, the band, the show. Chat, I have been streaming for 2 hours now. I will be streaming for another 2. I would really, really, really like if we managed to hit the goal of 800 today and maybe even exceed it, since we are also funding my birthday, which is next week, and my trip to New Zealand at some point over the summer. So please, please, please use command tip and donate if you want to support me or subscribe or cheer. Yeah, I just really hate reading David Frum articles. I'm probably going to do it a bunch more. But I need you to understand that I'm not reading this in the same way as like I watch Ezra Klein or I read some of these people who I'm like, you're having a fun time being flowery with words and you're some kind of like fairly talented writer, but politically you're an idiot. Or uh or even with some of them, like, they're not particularly talented writers, but they're just not like aggravating in the way that David Frum is. Like, he is just a bad writer. Trump can't lead. Trump's method of governance is command. He cannot work. I'm surprised he said he here instead of saying Trump for a fucking third time in this paragraph. He cannot work across party lines, and he cannot speak to any part of the American nation beyond his MAGA base. Is this, I mean, sorry, we'll discuss it again at the end. I'll probably end up going back through things a little bit. A war leader, however, must be a national leader. War imposes costly sacrifice. Sorry, dude, you just exist in a fantasy world. Okay, sorry. He just really winds me up. Leaders who take the nation to war must explain those costs and inspire those sacrifices. Trump simply cannot do any of that work, and he has no idea how it could be done. For 3 years in his first term, Trump benefited from the strong economy that he inherited. Then the pandemic struck, and his first instinct was to hunt for someone to blame. In this second presidency, his main work has been spectacular self-enrichment, even as the economy has sagged under the weight of his catastrophic trade wars. He made no case for an Iran war to the public and never sought approval by Congress. Hey, chat. Just like, shut up, David. Ratfreck, I enjoy aesthetic compliments. I like being told that I'm pretty. It's not a wrong thing to do. Thank you for checking. That's very nice of you. But to Distraction, welcome to the stream. It's lovely to have you here. Where were we? He never made a case to Congress. Where's his respect for the office? There's a dang Cheeto in the White House. Trump never tried to ally with them. Trump's vision of the presidency is authoritarian and kleptocratic. Issue orders, grab money, luxuriate in flattery, erect monuments to oneself. Oneself. It's not like Frum is always bad in the same way as well. Like, like, I think the appearance of oneself here is a really good example of this. Just like, it's not the same kind of badness, but he surprises you with new, just like, things that just feel bad as in your mouth as you're saying them, or like in your eyes when you're reading them. It's just, I'm just actually quite like shocked that he is in the position that he's in. Morrigan the Fae, thank you so much for the £25 donation. Fun fact, you can type !tip. Okay, to be clear, chat, I'm reading a donation message here. £25 donation, thank you very much, Morrigan, with the message. Fun fact, you can type !tip and follow the link to give the mighty Sophie from Mars all your money. Chat, please don't give me all your money. Every pence makes her stronger and more beautiful. Oh. Morrigan, you're very sweet. Thank you so much. Ratfreck says, your hair is looking very cute, tousled and wavy. Thank you. That's because I'm a sweaty. I'm sweating. It's so warm here, but it is the upside of it is that my hair curls more, which I do quite enjoy. Okay. Trump's vision of the presidency is authoritarian and kleptocratic. Issue orders, grab money, luxury and flattery, erect monuments to oneself. That's no way to lead a nation through the hazards and difficulties of war. Now the war is ending on disadvantageous terms for the United States. Trump's old methods will be turned to a new task, trying to deceive the American people and the world into believing the war he lost it was really a big win. The biggest ever, so big you cannot believe it. He's likely to discover that, indeed, nobody does believe it. It's so bad, dude. Like, it's just like, oh, crikey. Morrigan, you're Canadian? Look, I would encourage people to, like, as examples of how dire liberal slop can get, both in terms of, like, the horrible views that are advocated in with a veneer of, like, with a veneer of civil debate and high-minded discussion and respect for the office. I think David Frum is a really good example of, like, how like, yeah, like, a good example of a terrible liberal slop writer, because he writes such filth. His opinions suck. He is all the way, like, positioning himself in the position and mindset of the ruling class and everything that he says. Right, let's pick out some choice bits. Okay. That's no way to lead a nation through the hazards and difficulties of war. It's not even like this will sound like it's an aesthetic or even a semantic argument about what he said there, but that's not the point I'm trying to get at here, right? Like, when I say that there are very real material things you can say about the right way to lead a nation in wartime, and some of them are even, like, fairly concrete things that you can say about how you should lead that are actually to do with, like, emotional appeal, rhetoric, charisma, and so on. But so much of what David Frum puts out has this tone of, like, clutching pearls. And again, I don't want to say too much, like, that David Frum is even consistently bad, because he finds rich, original, new ways to suck complete shit at being a public intellectual and writer. I like. Let's look again at the paragraph, Trump can't lead. Trump can't lead. Trump's method of governance is command. He cannot work across party lines, and he cannot speak to any part of the American nation beyond his MAGA base. A war leader, however, must be a national leader. War imposes costly sacrifices. Leaders who take the nation to war must explain those costs and inspire those sacrifices. Trump simply cannot do any of that work, and he has no idea how it could be done. So, this paragraph is like, kind of epitomizes what's fucked in this article, which from the outset is David Frum is describing that the Iran war has gone badly because of Trump's personality defects, rather than because it was just a materially unwinnable position for the declining US empire in the first place. Like, I think it's become so obvious to so many people that America is a declining empire that is lashing out more violently as its power and hold on the world collapses. That, like, almost exactly that description is in the that report from the CIA that China has a dark picture of America, right? And then someone was sharing it, I saw the other day, with, like, China has a dark picture of the world where there's a blue sky and green grass. Like, you know? War is only bad when it's not bipartisan. This is, like, this is why I'm calling him a paleo chud. Like, he's not a MAGA chud. He has this, like, bizarre belief in, like, decorum or whatever. That's very classic of an Ezra Klein type. And at the same time, he just has, like, some of the most insane beliefs, especially when you're reading him talking about Israel, like we were last week. But yeah, I think this paragraph in particular is a good example. No, sorry. Okay, let me just highlight this. Okay, if anyone watching this would like a little tip from a professional writer who has been a professional writer for nearly a decade, one thing that you can just do, very basic thing, to just quickly check that your piece of writing will not feel really bad to read for a lot of people, is try to either deliberately lean into or deliberately remove redundancy and repetition. So, in other words, Repeat when you mean to. Repeat when you're trying to make a point. Repeat when you're trying to exercise some kind of rhetorical flair. See what I just did there? Okay. David Frum, for example, has started all these paragraphs with Trump is. Trump is arrogant, Trump is reckless, Trump hates procedure. Well, that one's slightly fucked. Trump is panicky, Trump is gullible, Trump can't lead. Right? Trump has some kind of quality at the start of each of these paragraphs, and that's a deliberate repetition that's making a point. Given that the start of all these paragraphs uses the word Trump, and the paragraphs, and in fact the article is all about Trump, as is this whole stream, by the way. If you hadn't realized it by now, this is a Trump stream. I've been very restrained with doing the impression, but this entire episode of the Liberal Slop stream, we're just looking at Trump stuff. So you could go, Trump can't lead, and then say, his method of governance is command. He cannot work across party lines, and he cannot speak to any part of the American nation beyond his MAGA base. A war leader, however, must be national war leader, right? And that would work really well, and arguably you'd still need to change this one. He simply cannot do any of that work, and he has no idea how it could be done. And that kind of conciseness would help. With the overall flow, and changing all the Trumps in the rest of the paragraph to he and his would help the repetition of Trump has these qualities or lacks these qualities would stand out even more than just using italics. If you read any of my Patreon uploads of my scripts, by the way, you'll see that I use italics and bold a fair amount. That's because those are notes that I'm going to be reading a script from. That's a script for me to perform to a camera, and I often emphasize a word that I'm going to say like that. If you need to rely on this... Anyway... Here is just a real quick tip if you would like to be a professional writer like me or David Frum. But really it's a tip for not being a professional writer like David Frum. Trump is gullible. As Trump's present Secretary of State observed back in 2016, Trump is most fundamentally a con artist, but Trump is often a self-defeating con artist who falls victim to his own con. Trump demanded unconditional surrender from Iran. Instead, he's... negotiating an exit that concedes most of Iran's demands and leaves Iran in a more dominant position of a Persian Gulf oil traffic than occupied before the war. But Trump seems to be genuinely convinced himself that he has won a mighty victory, and he seems truly baffled that others decline to endorse his flim-flam. 6 Trumps in that paragraph. Maybe he's against pronouns? That's very good. That's actually very good. Yes. It might just be that he is trying to boycott using pronouns as much as possible. Trump is gullible. As Trump's present Secretary of State observed back in 2016, Trump is most fundamentally a con artist, but Trump is often... buddy... Come on. It also bothers me, as someone whose art form explicitly does involve a lot of, writing down my thoughts in a flowery prose style and then performing them to a camera, I do write in a fairly conversational style. And if I wrote text essays only as my main career, if I wrote text to be read rather than to be read out, if I wrote text that wasn't supposed to be heard because I was performing it to you in video essays, but rather text that, was going to be in an article, going to be in a book, a magazine, a journal, any of these kinds of things, I would change my... Jesus Christ. First time chatter, 7 says, stop being so pretty, I catch feelings quickly. Pay me about it. I would change my style if I was writing in a publication, and my text, like my writing, was supposed to be read by the audience rather than heard through my voice. And like the amount that this guy uses, um a new chatter says, I didn't know money is your love language. £1,000 is my love language. Um, I write in a style that is supposed to be heard, and sometimes it still bothers me when I'm writing that I've written something so much like this is meant to be read out and is not like, just kind of nice on the page. But obviously, like, what's nice on the page and what's good for a performance medium like video essays isn't the same thing. So I have to like be okay, be okay with that. The use of full stop space but in David Frum's piece here drives me kind of berserk. I'd identify as that £1,000, so I'd be your love language. You'd identify as £1,000. Can you unpack that joke for me, new chatter? Anyway, David Frum's piece really sucks complete shit about the author, dickhead who sucks. I think like I know what we're going to go to next, which will be where is it? Trump might already be a lame duck, which I've heard. I hear sitting duck a lot more. I don't know if that's like an American versus English thing, but the thing I wanted to say about, before we go and read this, like the reason I wanted to bring up that we're going to there next is that like we've just had an article that's like entirely about how Trump is, like how Trump's personality and his particular thoughts are the main driver of like what's going on with his policy and with the American government right now. And then in the same magazine on the same week, we also have he actually has no agency whatsoever, and he's already like lost all power. Shirara, thank you so much for the £15.41 and the message, doing my part to make you strong. Doing my part to make you stronger and more beautiful. Thank you so much, Shirara. That's very nice of you. Chat, we are aiming to hit the £800 dono goal by the end of this stream, which will unlock an extra bonus gaming stream some point in the future. Not immediately, because I'm rushed off my feet with this estate organizing at the moment. And beyond there, I want to highlight again that we're streaming for two right now, because I won't be streaming next week because it's going to be my birthday on next Friday when the stream would be. So I'm not going to work on my birthday. And I would also like to remind you all that I'm trying to save up to go on a little holiday and visit New Zealand, where I was born, because it's going to be my 30th birthday, and I think it would be nice to go back where I bloody came from. No, sorry. I think it would be nice to go on a trip to visit there, and who knows, I might even buy myself nice stuff if there's money beyond just the expenses of the trip itself. Although it's going to be fairly expensive because it is literally the other side of the entire planet. Okay. All that said, if you're enjoying the stream, please consider paying for the stream. You can subscribe or cheer or donate directly using command tip, and if you're that new chatter, you have to specifically tip £1,000. Thank you. Okay, let's read Trump might already be a lame duck. Victories for his candidates in GOP primaries could serve to hasten the president's political decline. By Jonathan Lamaya and Michael Scherer. Victories for his candidates in GOP primaries could serve to hasten the president's political decline. Okay, an interesting claim to begin with. I like round numbers. Thank you so much for the £12.93 donation. We are now at £720, which is 90% of the monthly goal this month. That's pretty exciting, isn't it? If anyone here hates round numbers, I have a convenient way to get myself into a little bidding war here. Okay. President Trump has never really cared about the Republican Party. Let me just check the length of this one before I get right into it. No, that's okay. Okay, cool. Chat, I've been streaming for nearly 2.5 hours now, by the way, so please, again, remember that this is my job and consider that I get paid when people would just like to pay me. President Trump has never really cared about the Republican Party per se. Huge if true. He basks in its adulation and it's beneficial to him when the GOP controls Congress, but he's never adhered to its orthodoxies or honored its heroes. Neither has he been willing to brook internal dissent in the name of the party's big tent. Brook as in getting past... Okay, I see what they're saying. Oh, Million Peaches, thank you so much for the £11.11 donation. Happy birthday from Poppy and Kitty. Thank you so much. Where were we? Hasn't been willing to brook internal dissent in the name of the party's big tent. He demands absolute fealty but displays little loyalty. He can't help obsessing over his personal priorities, such as his proposed ballroom or his retribution campaign against perceived tormentors, to the detriment of his party's political interests. On ballots, Donald Trump MAGA would be more accurate than Donald Trump R. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Extremely cold take. Trump has a massive cult of personality and everything is more about him than about any kind of bigger project. Cool. Signed off. You got us. We agree. With little more than 5 months until the midterms, that divergence between what Trump thinks is good for Trump and what is good for the Republican Party has never been wider. Trump's priorities appear in many ways to be hurting the GOP's chances in November when it already faces stiff odds of keeping control of Congress. The war he started with Iran put Americans' economic struggles front and center when the price of gasoline jumped. Any semblance of a national legislative agenda has evaporated as he pushes long-shot bills that his own party declines to take forward. And his obsession with construction in and around Washington, D.C., it is safe to say, doesn't suggest a chief executive focused on the problems of everyday citizens. Meanwhile, Trump has wielded his clout inside the party like a broadsword, endorsing primary opponents in races against incumbents who defy him. Trump has a perfect endorsement record this year. All 118 candidates for House, Senate, and governor's races he has backed in primaries have won, according to a Fox News count, though many of these races were not really contested. Even though Trump's power over his party appears at its pinnacle, many Republicans believe that the president has actually accelerated his own political decline. Many Republicans believe. Okay. Lil Toasty X says, absolutely wild they can still print this kind of wide-eyed bullshit takes. Yeah, it's, This is something I was going to say about the David Frum thing, but I was trying to hold off on it because I want to slightly build our analysis of liberal slop around Trump as we go along here. I don't know if I'm going to mention the phrase Trump derangement syndrome in the thumbnail to this stream, but I think there is something clearly going on here about the way that people who believe in the American system and civil society respond to Trump with this constant credulous shock, as if it's not really obvious the things that he's going to do. He has said, just vote for me this time and you won't have to again. I don't know that I'm saying he's going to cancel the midterms. I've said before, I think my most honest belief is that he's going to use the midterms as a testing ground for what kind of rigging he can do around elections, claim that American democracy isn't working, and therefore cancel the general. I've said that quite a few times, but just like he's like fairly upfront about like wanting to just be king of America, and the again, like, it's an entirely ice cold take that he has a political cult. And I think at this point he knows as well that like he is building the track in front of the train. Like he has to keep on holding the immense power he has, or he's going to jail. Like 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 a Democratic candidate ran in 2020 and won on not being Trump, but everything completely fucking, like, everyone fucking loathed the Democratic Party beyond what was previously imaginable, because they didn't bring like swift enough justice against Trump's fascist project. And like so many people have said, and I think it's a completely fair take, like Democrats need to make like punishing the villains, as it were, like a part of their platform to win a lot of support this time around. Like they need to say, yes, we're going to send Trump to jail. But this is part of the like collapse of American bourgeois democracy, is that like to get that support, the Democrats would have to blame him for some of the things that he's done. And most of the things that he's done have just been the things the American empire would be doing anyway, but he's done them hastily, stupidly, without manners, and more, essentially. Which is why this obsession with like process, respect for the office of president, and like decorum, because criticizing him for those things is pointing him out as this like other, this excess, this like separation from the system. And again, I hope people who are longtime viewers of the Liberal Slop stream will have picked this up by now. In our study of ideology, excesses are a concept where an ideologico-social system produces people who act in a way that is in line with the ideology, but an extreme version of it. And then by pointing at those, the idioform is able to say, that's not what I am, that's external to me, that's an excess, that's too much, this is normal, this is too much. Middle-earth Marxist says, he's not doing the puppet show right. Yes, precisely. Alright, let's carry on with this. Even though Trump's power over his party appears at its pinnacle, many Republicans believe the president has actually accelerated his own political decline. Many of those primary winners may struggle in November, darkening the GOP's prospects for keeping control of Congress. And at least some of the defeated incumbents who will serve on Capitol Hill until next January now feel liberated to push back on what they dislike in Trump's agenda. Others in the Senate who are not up for re-election are bitter about the president's role in their colleagues' defeat, and have shown little interest in helping him pursue his personal grievance campaign. The problem is he has nobody around him who is willing to tell him, sir, the stuff you're talking about is not possible, and you are shooting yourself in the foot every time, one Republican Senate advisor told us. He essentially has lame ducked himself in pursuit of retribution, and either the staff has failed to make a reasonable argument against these actions, or they have told him this and he's no longer listening. Either way, the party loses. Since Trump returned to the White House, very few Republicans have dared defy him. Most have set aside private reservations to embrace his push on tariffs and mass deportations, while professing ignorance about Trump's efforts to enrich himself and his family. I haven't seen the story is a common refrain. On those rare occasions when a lawmaker has resisted his will, Trump has paid attention and waited for his revenge. Representative Thomas Massie of Kentucky, as measured by his voting record, was a reliable conservative. But he was also a prominent Republican voice calling for the release of the Epstein files. Trump opposed the release, unusually he didn't get his way, slammed the Kentucky congressman, and supported his primary opponent. Massie lost. 7 Indiana state lawmakers broke with Trump's effort to redistrict their state in favor of the GOP. Trump backed their primary challengers. 5 of the incumbents lost. 1 other faces a recount. Um, the biggest ructions. A riotous disturbance, a noisy quarrel. An uproar, a quarrel, a noisy outbreak. Similar, uproar, quarrel. Okay. The biggest ructions have been in the Senate. No modern president has endorsed challenges to two sitting senators from his own party, but Trump successfully backed Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton against the four-term incumbent John Cornyn in Tuesday's primary runoff, and also helped oust Senator Bill Cassidy of Louisiana. Senator Tom Tillis of North Carolina, meanwhile, got so fed up with Trump that he decided to retire. But scorned senators can be furious foes. The Republican majority of 53 already was a tad precarious because of occasional defections from two relative moderates, Susan Collins of Maine and Lisa Murkowski of Alaska. Add in Tillis, Cornyn, Cassidy, and retiring former Majority Leader Mitch McConnell. Oh, thank God. And Trump's grip on the chamber starts to look shaky. This, what do I want to say about this? I don't want to jump straight to, Hitler comparisons with Trump, because, again, that's another thing that I would point to in, liberal slop discussions of Trump that, are quite... It's quite, please learn about another fascist. But when fascist... cults of personality, fascist political movements, burn their way through establishment conservative political projects, they do tend to oust a ton of establishment conservative figures and sometimes even institutions, right? Look at what's happening in the UK right now with the Conservative Party being completely marginalized because all their support is going to reform, right? They have almost done an inside-out version of what's happening with the Republican Party. So, and the reason I was bringing up Hitler is that, if you know about the rise of Hitler, a very important part in what happened there was, the ousting of the conservative establishment that had a lot of power in Germany and replacement with Nazis as opposed to just hyper-bigoted, hyper-conservatives. So, reform is doing something almost inside out compared to what MAGA is doing in the Republican Party, because America is so incredibly locked into the two-party system that, rather than breaking the two-party system, it is more effective for them to have what is effectively a further right party, the MAGA party, you could think of it as, and have it enter the Republican Party and just hollow it out and replace it entirely with MAGA people. Trump has been very effective at turning establishment Republicans into MAGA people, right? Look at, Ted Cruz even, tried to run against him in the original primary. Trump, I think, publicly called Ted Cruz's wife ugly, and now Cruz is his best friend. Right? That man is so spiritually cucked. He will be reincarnated as a cuck in every lifetime. He is so cucked. And what I mean when I say reform is doing an inside-out version of what MAGA is doing is that a ton of conservative MPs have defected to reform from the Conservative Party now. So where the Conservatives lost a lot of support and Reform gained it, it shows that they are not losing support because people think these people don't know how to run a country. They're very explicitly losing support from people who think that they need something more right-wing. And that Reform has the correct agenda, and it's fine for there to be the same people occupying maybe even some of the same roles, but that those people have to fall in line behind Farage for it to be worth it to those particular voters. There is some fallout that's bad for Reform in this. If you watch Mule's stream, he covers British politics a lot, and you'll see him talking about restore Britain, which exists to the right of reform, like it's essentially just a Nazi party. Morgana says, so GOP was out-competed by fash fungus and eaten alive body snatchers style. That's a surprisingly effective and succinct description, yes. Yeah. But yeah, I think the point I'm trying to make about this is that establishment Republicans who have remained in the Republican Party have had to fall in line behind Trump to hold on to power. Establishment conservatives in the UK who want to hold on to power have had to exit the Conservative Party and fall in line behind Nigel Farage. And it is just very, very commonplace for a radical political movement or party that is pulling like power significantly in its direction to do exactly this thing that they're describing. Anyway, they're saying his grip is looking shaky. I'm not entirely sure. The president's purge of candidates who have shown they can win a general election in favor of newcomers who are focused on pleasing him means the party will now have to do more to have a shot at victory in November. Some strategists think that the Texas race for U.S. Senate with Paxton on the ticket could require as much as $100 million in additional Republican funding from out of state, both because Paxton is a less effective fundraiser than Cornyn, and because his turbulent history leaves him more vulnerable to Democratic attacks. Although Democrats have often hyped but seldom delivered in the Lone Star State, they see Paxton as the weaker opponent for state lawmaker James Tallarico. A Tallarico win in Texas could hand the Senate to the Democrats. Even if he loses, the diversion of GOP resources to Paxton could put other states in play. Senate Majority Leader John Thune made no secret of his support for Cornyn. When Trump and Thune spoke on May 18th, the call was so tense that Thune told his advisors afterward that he thought Trump would back Paxton. Senator Tim Scott of South Carolina, who runs the National Republican Senatorial Committee, followed up with his own pitch for Cornyn in a less contentious conversation with the president. People briefed on the exchanges told us. Trump endorsed Paxton the next day. Internal polls were already showing Paxton ahead, but the president's endorsement turned the contest into a rout. Thune, in particular, has at times thrown up his hands in the face of the president's obduracy. And obduracy. The duality or state of being obdurate. Come on now. Fine. I read this as essentially obstinacy, and they say see also obstinacy anyway. Obdurate, not changing in response to argument or other influence, obstinate or intractable. Okay, we've got an entirely redundant word here. For $15 word enjoyers, there you go. You can now say obdurate as well as obstinate. Trump, in turn, has been venting to other GOP senators that the upper chamber is ineffective and insufficiently loyal. There are definitely frustrations that are not going away, one person familiar with the exchanges told us. And there is no appetite from Thune to resolve it. Trump grew so frustrated over the Senate's inability to pass the Save America Act, legislation designed to crack down on issues as disparate as immigration, voting rights, and transgender surgeries, that he embraced the idea of a talking filibuster based on the recommendation of Utah's Mike Lee. Genuinely, these people who make their entire living being some of the most listened to voices on politics, I don't know. It's just liberal slop has become a very strange world, and I've been saying it for a bit, but just liberal reality has really diverged to a very, very strange place at this point. And I think that the genocide was probably the biggest part of it, but it's just bizarre to see, right? Talking so abstractly, issues as disparate as immigrant voting rights and transgender surgeries. So firstly, it's not just transgender surgeries, which you're giving credence to the wedge issue there, right? It's about trans people's ability to exist in society at all, and it's not just about immigrant voting rights. it's about immigrants' ability to exist in American society as at all as anything other than a slave caste, right? Like, it's both of these things. There is a very obvious different lived experience that like people are having of these issues, and when you are trying to talk in this like, I'd say almost politically correct way, but I don't want people to mistake what I'm gesturing at for like woke way. That's not what I'm trying to say. Like politically correct as in like fitting the commonly used key phrases in political discussion. Anyway, the talking filibuster is a rarely used tactic during which senators delay voting on a bill by refusing to yield the floor, thereby forcing very lengthy debate. Thune had the thankless task of explaining to Trump that such an approach would also empower Democrats to offer their own amendments. That could have forced floor votes on issues such as tariffs, the Iran war, and abortion rights, where Republicans would have to choose between defying the president and giving Democrats ammunition for the fall. The legislation remains stalled. Senate Republicans have shown other flashes of independence. Tillis held up Trump's nominee for chair of the Federal Reserve until the Justice Department stopped pursuing Jerome Powell. Rand Paul, Murkowski, Collins, and Cassidy voted to advance a resolution that would require Trump to get congressional authorization to continue the war in Iran. House Republicans cancelled a vote on the measure out of fear that it might pass. Cool. And early hopes that Congress might authorize $1 billion in security funding for the White House ballroom were dashed after pushback from some GOP lawmakers and a ruling from the Senate parliamentarian. Trump ordered Thune to fire the parliamentarian. The majority leader refused. Last week, still smarting from the Paxton endorsement, the Senate went into recess rather than consider Trump's plan to create a nearly $1.8 billion fund for alleged victims of government weaponization. The plan was widely and immediately panned on two grounds: the prospect of recompense for the rioters who attacked Congress on January 6, 2021, and protections that would forever shield Trump, his family, and businesses from IRS scrutiny. So the nation's top law enforcement official is asking for a slush fund to pay people who assault cops? Utterly stupid, morally wrong, take your pick, McConnell said in a statement. The fund's fate is now unclear. Over the weekend, Iran hawks in the Senate, who are usually joined at the hip to Trump, Lindsey Graham, Ted Cruz, Roger Wicker, fumed at the reported terms of an Iran peace deal that the president was touting as imminent. The White House tried to silence the objections, but the timetable for a deal notably decelerated, and nothing has changed. In the House, where the Republican majority is even more tenuous than in the Senate, Trump has also faced defiance. Massey, Kevin Kiley of California, I'm sure he isn't like this at all, but it just like sounds like a surfer bro congressman. Congressman, like Kevin Kiley. And Don Bacon of Nebraska, okay. Alright. Sometimes Americans really are just like voting for their brand of guy. Like, what's representative of California, dude? Kevin Kiley. Yeah, man. Anyway, Kevin Kiley of California and Don Bacon of Nebraska broke ranks to give Democrats a chance to oppose Trump's tariffs on Canada. Bacon is retiring after criticizing Trump's foreign policy. Kiley, meanwhile, found his congressional district eliminated as California leaders retaliated for GOP redistricting in Texas. Kiley declared that he would run for re-election in a new district as an independent. Stephen Chung, the White House communications director, downplayed the internal GOP strife. President Trump is the unquestioned leader of the Republican Party, he told us in a statement. Look no further than his perfect and sterling record in the past year. 100% success rate for his preferred candidates, proving his endorsement is the most powerful endorsement in history. This is so nuts. Artist Synth, thank you so much for hanging out. It's been lovely to have you here, and I hope you sleep really, really well. Oh my god, that was a disturbingly accurate impression of a surfer, bro. I've been watching a guy a bunch recently on. He just keeps on showing up on my Instagram reels, and he's just like, um, he just has like all of the Bill and Ted slang still. Like he literally calls things righteous, and he really entertains me. Like dumb kind men. Mwah. Anyway, I was basically doing an impression of him. I have been streaming for almost 3 hours now, chat. We are trying to get to the end of this bar and as much further as you would like to go for my birthday on this stream. I would like to quickly say hello to the VOD watchers while I'm paused from the article. Hi VOD watchers, it's lovely to have you here. I enjoyed your comments from last time and I'm looking forward to reading your comments on this VOD next time in 2 weeks. So, hi and hello, and it's lovely to have all these VOD watchers. I appreciate you, and also please check out the link down below to support me if you're a VOD watcher, and maybe even check out my throne and considering buying me something for my birthday if you'd like to. But chatters, if you want to help me to have a very merry birthday time for my 30th birthday, please use command tip and donate directly to fill up this green bar here. Okay, cool. So what I wanted to say about this, like Trump's grip is slipping on power take that they're trying to like elaborate on here. I think what's not doing it for me is like the lack of memory of Trump 1. Like I think that if you remember just how chaotic Trump's first term was, and like he really didn't manage to get as much done as he could have by any means in his first term, but it was unbelievably chaotic. Like, it was just such a fucking mess. If people remember, for example, the press secretary thing, like, people who took, like, 5-minute turns being press secretary because the press secretary was being replaced so fast, like, that's the kind of thing I'm talking about. Like, he is extremely used to a world where if the guy isn't doing the job, you fire the guy and get a new guy. And the Republican Party is extremely used to like very long-standing established relationships. But that's not the world they're in anymore because of Trump. Middle Earth Marxist says, yeah, it's wild how everyone memory hold everything from his first term. He basically almost did war with North Korea in his first few weeks. Yeah. Ratfreck says, breaking news, previously mentioned landlord agent has conceded and agreed that not only do we not owe for spurious costs, they owe us £92 for inaccurate charges. Boom. Incredible stuff. Hell yeah. We love to see tenants defeating landlords. We pray to see it here on the estate as well. Yeah, what am I saying here? Yeah, the memory hole. The memory holing going on in this article. It's very striking to me. I wish I had a more complete description of the way that the liberal media builds this, like, framework of understanding around Trump, but they do a very specific thing to do with him being a totally exceptional president who is more of a lone actor than any previous president. Obviously, we all know he uses a lot of executive orders, right? But it's like people carry out his orders, you know what I mean? Like, the idea that because he's signing executive orders, he's just ruling by decree like a king. But if he went through Congress and the Senate where his party has a majority, and that majority is specifically hyper-ideologically aligned with him because people have been voting for Trump more than for any Republican candidate when they vote Republican for the last basically 10 years now. That's cool, isn't it? The idea that, like, a piece of legislation that passes through those two chambers, both extremely controlled by people who are actually very loyal to him, that's like less by decree. Like all this article, like all the time this article spends focusing on Thune, the majority leader, and talking about how, like, talking about the ways that he like has fought to oppose Trump. Sorry, I'm not actually reading the article right now, so I'm just gonna like all the space that it spends talking about Thune and how he's fought to oppose Trump is so far away from systemic thinking that it's quite dire. Like, you're talking about a majority Republican House and Senate with a Republican president, where in a country where like the opposition party isn't like meaningfully opposing. We're gonna After this one, we're gonna read the one about Trump being gay, and that's literally by someone who is like an advisor to Biden. Like, that's the opposition, right? Like, this is the hashtag resistance going on here. The Democrats are just calling Trump gay? Like, like, there is not a meaningful force in the establishment, like bourgeois parliamentary political project that is pulling in a different direction in America. There is the American empire, there is American parliament, there is the Republican Party, and there is MAGA, and all of it, like, these are concentric rings, you know. Like, Base Bananas, welcome to the chat. Lovely to have you here. So, like, an article that's talking about how, like, Trump is losing his grip on the Republican Party or whatever because Thune is fighting him on this stuff. Thune is helping it to happen. Like, someone whose job, as you're describing it, has functionally fallen to, like, checking the feasibility of Trump's plans and making sure that they go through the steps to become reasonable legislation that can be enacted more easily, like, is not standing in his way. They're helping him to achieve the stuff more easily. Like, the thing I always refer back to is how the British Empire had people in its parliament who were, you know, in Westminster, in the parliament that still exists today, right? I mean, we're not talking about some, like, hypothetical, hard to imagine historic thing. We're talking about Westminster. The British Empire had people who were arguing for the hideous, greedy, cruel, rapacious plundering of the rest of the world by the British Empire, and we had people who were arguing to do it carefully and legally and in accordance with some principles. Right? And those people made sure that all of it was done carefully and according to the letter of law. They didn't stop it, right? They, in many ways, made it a far more sustainable, long-term, robust project than it otherwise would have been. And, like, I'm not trying to espouse accelerationism here. I'm not saying, like, it would have been a shorter project if they just left it to the fascists, so they just should have left it to the fascists and it all would have collapsed. But, like, they weren't meaningfully opposing it. Okay. Stephen Chung, White House Communications Director, downplayed the internal GOP strife. Trump is the unquestioned leader of the Republican Party, he told us in a statement. Look no further than his perfect and sterling record in the past year, 100% success rate for his preferred candidates, proving his endorsement is the most powerful endorsement in history. That's also quite funny because, like, he was so unpopular in the first term, if people remember this as well, that, like, Trump's endorsement started to be literally just called the kiss of death all the time. He was, like, he was tanking people's campaigns spectacularly. For months now, Republicans have fervently hoped that Trump's focus would shift to issues that could help the party in November. Instead, he has been consumed with an Iran peace agreement and with his projects. New paint for the reflecting pool, a triumphal arch near Arlington National Cemetery, the conversion of a Washington, D.C. public golf course into a championship links, and, of course, the ballroom. The economy, not so much. A recent Quinnipiac poll found that 45% of voters said that affording gas is now somewhat or very difficult, up from 29% in December. The same poll found that 55% of voters, including 16% of Republicans, blamed Trump, quote, a lot for the rise in costs, and 56% of voters opposed the US military action in Iran. Despite White House promises that the president would hold events across the country to promote economic fixes, Trump has largely stayed in Washington or at Mar-a-Lago and declared that the affordability crisis is a Democratic hoax. He seems uninterested in fulfilling his campaign promises to get prices down. Earlier this month, the president effectively gifted the Democrats a campaign ad by saying, "I don't think about Americans' financial situation." When he was asked about the impact of the Iran war, on Wednesday, while insisting that domestic political considerations would not factor into his negotiations with Tehran, Trump declared, "I don't care about the midterms." Many Republicans likely nodded in resigned agreement. Chat, what do we think about this article? What do we think it was trying to do? What have we gotten from it? What does it add to our series of what does it add to our analysis of liberal slop talking about Trump from the series of articles we've read tonight? We've had Why Aren't Oil Prices Higher, currently titled The Taco Equilibrium, talking about how the surety that Trump will back down in Iran is keeping markets calm, but that calm is probably going to run out. We've had Trump has a personality disorder and that's why Iran is going badly. And now we've had Trump is losing control of the Republican Party because he doesn't seem to give a fuck anymore. Hey, Apple Chips, it's lovely to have you here. I missed it, chat. Someone sum it up for me. You may have to catch the VOD. Because we've only got one Trump article left after this. A campaign ad that so far no one has really used. Yeah, true. It's just a bizarre thing. Like, again, all of that seems so far away from the LA riots last year, right? Like, it just feels like there is such a severe split between the world that American politicians occupy and other people occupy and the liberal slop writers are very firmly in the politicians' world. Ooh, excuse me. Chat, it's 11 p.m. here. I've been streaming for 3 hours. So, you know what I'm going to say. If you're enjoying the stream, please consider paying for the stream. You can subscribe or cheer or donate directly using Command Tip. Okay, so as I said at the start of this article, it's interesting to see, what was these two, Jonathan Lamaya and Michael Scherer, saying that Trump is losing all his power and doesn't actually have any agency, in the same article as, in the same publication as David Frum has written an article the same week saying Trump has lost because of his personality is so important, and what was the other guy's name? Roger Karma has written this taco equilibrium piece saying essentially that the market is entirely dictated by Trump's actions. And like, I don't know about everyone else, but I feel like when Trump first came in his first term, like at the start of his first term, I felt very plugged into this world where Trump is like the Trump circus, like the Trump show is just like what politics has become. And it had a bit of a radicalizing effect on me. Not that my principles have broadly like shifted a million miles. Like by that point I was already fairly leftist. But like it had a radicalizing effect on me and drove me away from some amounts of electoral politics, because it made what David Graeber called the charismatic world of politics. Like, far too obvious, right? Like, everything is about this guy, whether you like him or you hate him, like, the entire world has to revolve around him. But that's like a very quickly provably false lie if you just go outside. And it's this bizarre situation where, like, the spectacle almost becomes Trump's, like, tomb. Like, he's trapped within the spectacle that he is, like, creating and so adept at manipulating. And everyone talking about Trump talks about it as this topic of Trump, right? Like, it's the political discussion being had is about Trump. And this is why we get such frustrating liberal slop takes about it, like the Iran war is going badly because of Trump's personality and not because America had reached a point where one of its only moves was to finally try attacking Iran. And I've been guilty of this myself as well, like, but it's because Trump's so stupid that he did it. And it's because he's so stupid that he did it badly. But, like, it's not just that he is stupid enough to think that he would win at it. It's also that, like, America is getting into a more and more desperate situation. Okay. We've got one more Trump piece. And if we get through that in good time, we might look a little bit at The Atlantic cares a lot about birth rates all of a sudden. I really don't like how many people are suddenly talking about birth rates. It's kind of horrid. Okay. So, more on this, like, world of, this, like, Trump world, basically, right? Like, I generally try to stay away from it, and I think this is, like, partly this topic feels like a weird one for me to approach, like doing a thing that's entirely focused around Trump, because even to focus around Trump feels so, like, milquetoast and so liberal at this point. So, Ashley Parker, and let me just double check that I haven't imagined what I read earlier. Ashley Parker, staff writer at The Atlantic, previously spent 8 years at the Washington Post, great, and was White House bureau chief during Joe Biden's first 2 years. Awesome. So, like, actually a White House Democrat has an incredible piece for us to look at. So, finally we've solved the mysteries of Trump's personality and his personal psychology to the nth degree, right? It was always coming to this. We were always going to fully and completely solve the mystery of President Donald Trump and get to the bottom of what makes him such a uniquely bad leader. And it's nothing to do with the political project of America, of imperialism, any of the history surrounding it, the current material conditions, climate change, rising global fascism, misinformation, his own personal political support for fascism and the fascist movement that's propping him up. It's not any of those things. Trump's gay. That's what it is. It's that Trump's gay. So, chat. This is the King of Queens. President Trump loves handsome men, especially the muscular ones. Look at my gorgeous lava lamp, chat. I really love this. Nat got me this for my birthday. I wish it showed up better on the camera. It's just, like, incredibly gorgeous to watch. Someone, thank you so much for the £5 tip. No dono message. Okay, so again, this is the hashtag resistance. This is what the Democrats are doing. Just calling the president gay. President Trump delights in playing what he calls the gay national anthem whenever he wants to rev up a crowd. He's obsessed with Elton John, was once friendly with Liza Minnelli, and has a Liberace-esque flair for gilded interiors. One of his favourite sports to watch, mixed martial arts, is basically sweaty, semi-naked dudes. and he is a deep and vocal admirer of the physique of fellow men, often announcing which ones he would cast in a movie. "They're perfect specimens," he said last year of the military pilots who visited him in the Oval Office. He looks like the Marlboro Man he cooed about a former Iowa state senator. "Young, handsome guy. It's always nice to be young and handsome," he complimented the president of Paraguay. Some of Trump's allies note that years before gay marriage was legalized, Trump had gay friends, took pro-gay stances, and allowed gay people to join his private club in Palm Beach starting in the mid-90s. Rick Grenell became the first openly gay person to hold a cabinet position when Trump appointed him acting director of national intelligence. Oh dear. Grenell, who is now the president's envoy for special missions, once called Trump the most pro-gay president in American history, a title that Trump said he was honored to have. To be clear, Trump says he is attracted only to women, and in fact has been married to 3 of them. He once hosted the Miss Universe pageant, was caught on tape saying that he loves to grab women, quote, by the pussy, and was found civilly liable for sexually abusing a woman. Loads more have accused him of sexual misconduct. Trump has denied the accusations. "Women, I like. Men, no, I don't have any interest," Trump affirmed at a Board of Peace meeting earlier this year. But there's also little doubt Trump has unabashedly embraced the aesthetic, the je ne sais quoi, of a certain kind of gay man. Some who are sympathetic to the president have gone even further. Blaze Media, a conservative outlet started by the talk radio host Glenn Beck, ran a story in 2024 titled "Donald Trump, Our First Gay President," much in the way people talked about Bill Clinton as having been the first black one. Good Lord. The story notes in a section titled "Queen of Queens," he blows kisses to Hulk Hogan, weighs in on Fashion Week, used to be so glamorous and exciting, no stars, no fun, just boring. And his rivalry with lesbian Rosie O'Donnell remains a gem of the catty, naughty social feuds. Pod Save America, a liberal podcast started by former aides to President Obama. Good Lord. Oof. Volpix989 says, "Oh god, I was not prepared for how bad this is." Yeah, it's pretty bad. It's pretty fucking dire. Pod Save America, a liberal podcast started by former aides to President Obama, declared that Trump would be a gay icon if only he had liberal social values. The president, the episode's title observes, demands a ballroom at the White House, loves musicals, and wears makeup. You got him. Woo! You got him. Good job. Trump is suffering because of this. He's losing power. And no one else is being harmed. Just Trump, who's definitely being taken down by what you're saying. James Kirchick, the author of Secret City, The Hidden History of Gay Washington, told me that Trump's personal story, a guy from Queens making it big in Manhattan, tracks with the typical gay story of men in his era. In another life, he continued, the 79-year-old could be a classic aging gay, living in Wilton Manors, sitting at a bar, making bitchy comments to everyone who comes in. Of course, Trump's perch from the Oval Office confers much more power than a bar stool does, and his comments have moved markets and sent allies reeling. It's a gay man frozen in the amber of the late 1970s and early 80s before AIDS, Kirchick said, referring to the type of gay man he believes Trump would embody. I hate this so much. What if the moon was cheese? Yes, little toasty X. What if the world was pudding? Yeah. Yep. All politicians wear makeup. Yes, literally. Literally. Pardon me, sorry. It's a certain age and a certain era. It's very campy. The comedian and podcaster Caleb Heron deemed Trump to be of the old school gay era because, gay guys used to be mean before media training. He said in an interview with Ziwe Fumuro on her YouTube comedy show. The president, Hiran continued, should have become a red carpet fashion advisor, the sort who would say things like, "That dress, honey, I don't think so." That would have been amazing. I would have watched every night, he said. Instead, he ran for office on a platform of mass deportation, so that's where things got tricky, obviously. Penelope Pepper says, okay, I think this is the article that breaks me today. It's really dire, right? It's really fucking dire. People close to Trump say that he has long been gay-friendly in his actions as a private citizen. In the early days of his career as a developer, Trump was mentored by Roy Cohn, the legendary and ruthless New York lawyer and political fixer who was gay. During Studio 54's heyday, Trump relished making cameos. In 2024, Trump quietly allowed a gay wedding at Mar-a-Lago, though he didn't attend. But Trump has also been willing to vilify transgender individuals, especially athletes, for political gain. Especially athletes? Especially athletes? Sorry. If there was a group within transgender people who I would point at, now I'm doing the Trump accordion hands, see? If there was a group within transgender people I would point at that Trump is vilifying more than just transgender people in general. You know? There's a particular kind of transgender person who's like more in danger based on the rhetoric and like... It's especially athletes. What's happening? The ACLU has issued a scathing assessment of Trump's record on LGBTQ rights, and the Trevor Project, which supports LGBTQ youth, say queer, you fucking freak. I hate this. Sorry, I get really, really sick of the acronym. Said that outreach to its crisis hotline skyrocketed, a 700% increase the day after he was elected a second time. Jonathan Lovitz, a senior vice president of the Human Rights Campaign, wrote to me in an email that LGBTQ plus people, oh my god, helped profoundly shape the culture that Trump experienced while coming of age in New York City. That's why, he continued, many queer people are offended when Trump engages in certain forms of camp. Not because it's tacky, which it is, but because it underscores a deeper contradiction. He wants the benefits of a country and culture that queer people helped create, while advancing policies that make those same people less safe every day. I mean... Can we just appreciate homofascism for a second? Like, can we just appreciate that, like, the Trump loves handsome men, Trump loves muscular men, Trump loves men that look like they could be in movies stuff is not, like, that shocking a contradiction, and it's barely a contradiction, even. Like, homophobia is not a historic, like, deeply rooted pillar of human society. Like, there have been and certainly not like of like conservative or reactionary or dominance-based human societies that have existed, right? Like, most famously, the Greeks and Romans loved bumming and didn't see women as people. And like... If we can appreciate that, like, patriarchy is an ideological structure that dominates a lot of society and dictates how a lot of people behave, and that misogyny is therefore, like, core to an enormous amount of ideology in society, right? Then you can see, as I say, that homofascism is not really a big contradiction, right? They are men who only respect men and only listen to men and only think of men when they're thinking about, like, the people who matter and act in the world and, like, count as people. And it gets a bit gay. Like, I just, like, it's a bit gay. Okay, like, it's the liberal tendency to point at this and say, this is a bit gay. Like, that should bring the whole thing crashing down because they're supposed to find being gay, like, so icky and gross. But just, like, where will we be when you just, like, when you're saying that's a bit gay and they just are literally, like, the fascist men are having sex with each other. Like, they are just actually gay. They are just fully embrace that they are gay, and they have taken away every right that women have because they don't see women as people, and entirely just like keep women as fucking chattel who are there to like breed and raise children. Like, these guys, these some of the most intense ideologically committed Nazis love the Roman Empire, right? In the Roman Empire, women were not like full, like could not be full citizens. They were the property of the men of their household, and a lot of people understood homosexual relationships to be like the sorry, I'm distracted because a new chatter has come in and then is baffled by the going lib slop mode emotes. Hey, Eyes on Zhang, lovely to have you here. What am I saying? The Roman Empire, yeah, like, and there's plenty of like historic records of them, not just like being a bit gay with it, but like actively prizing like gay relationships between men as like the most important relationship in like conceivable in life. Okay. So my point in that, before we carry on with the article, is just that like homofascism is an extremely, extremely well described phenomenon that shouldn't be a shocking concept to people by this stage. And someone who worked for fucking Biden is writing in the Atlantic here to say, oh yeah, what if Trump's gay though? Have you thought about that? We're also talking about Trump's record like around trans people, when like we're talking about Trump's record around trans people in the Atlantic, which like as far as like turfism in the US is concerned, like Trump sorry, not Trump, sorry, the Atlantic like basically kicked off like turfism's import like into the USA. Like the Atlantic front page, the Jesse Single shit, like the Atlantic has played a huge fucking role in importing like liberal washed bigotry against trans people that's enabled all of this shit. And you're gonna come and write in the Atlantic that you're so concerned about LGBT people. Come on now. Gila Hall, welcome to the stream. Lots of first-time chatters today. It's nice. Gila says, everyone knows that you only have straight sex to have kids, and you have homoerotic adventures to be with your equal. Insert Roman salute. I see. Chat, if you're enjoying the stream, please consider paying for the stream. You can subscribe or cheer or donate directly using command tip. And we are trying to get another. What are we trying to get? £64 to hit the goal tonight. I've been streaming for nearly 3.5 hours. If everyone watching just donated, I'm not going to do that much maths right now, I'm too tired. If everyone watching just donated £3 each, we would sail way past that goal immediately. And please also remember that next week I won't be streaming because it's my 30th birthday. So these donations also go towards me having a nice 30th birthday. So please consider supporting the stream. And also VOD watchers, if you want to support the streams, the VOD, me, my birthday, whatever, please check out the link below the video. Okay. Oh, pardon me, sorry. Trump's continued patter about men's bodies has also drawn attention. As my colleague Marie-Rose Scheinemann and I dug into examples of these corporeal appraisals, we were surprised by their sheer quantity and just how much Trump seems to delight in complimenting other men. They did statistical analysis of how many times he... Okay. Thank you, someone, for donating £6 with no donation message. Okay. He has given the compliment of handsome at least 68 times so far in his second term, or 69 times if we count the 2 Thanksgiving turkeys he also collectively described as such. He is unapologetic in his preference for cabinet members and administration officials who seem to come out of central casting. He praised Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, who is gay, for his Hollywood-worthy bona fides, before appreciatively noting that under that beautiful exterior is a killer. He can almost never resist commenting on the physique of brawny men. Look at the muscles on this guy, he said, gazing upon a young cadet while delivering the commencement address at the U.S. Coast Guard Academy last week. 2 days later, he took pains to praise the New York Giants quarterback Jackson Dart, calling him a, quote, beautiful guy and waxing poetic about his legs like tree trunks. And speaking out about the golfer Arnold Palmer in 2024, Trump managed to both reassert his preference for women while also remarking on the legend's masculinity. I love women, but this is a guy that was all man. He also noted Palmer's powerful swing with stiff-shafted clubs and his alleged other assets. When we took showers with the other pros, they came out of there, they said, "Oh my god, that's unbelievable." It's like, as I say, my issue with this article is not that I think they're, like, baselessly saying he's a bit gay. It's just this huge, like, so fucking what? Like, the most that it is a bit funny. Like, it is a bit funny that he's, like, talking about, like, this guy having a big dick. But, like, it's just not meaningful. It's just not, like, worthy of, like, someone who fucking worked for Biden writing in The Atlantic about this. Like, what's bad about Trump? He is gay. What's bad about Trump? He has a personality disorder. Come on. Guys, please, come on. It's been a decade of this. It's 2026 now. Wake up, please. Oh. Sharara says, many evil gay men in history. Twitch said that one might be offensive and asked if I was sure. That's really funny. That's really, really funny. Oh, I'm so sleepy. Chat, it's like 11:30 at night here. Okay. Are they actually doing it? I think they're literally the thing you asked earlier, whether they were going to reference the guy who lip syncs to Trump. Yep, it is.
We also have the only cadet who earned a perfect score on every single fitness test. Now we're talking fitness. Do you know who this is already? Wow, this guy must be something. I think we'll have to invite him up. I want to check it out. Congratulations to Thomas Rhodes. Thomas, get up here, please. I want to see. I want to check him out. Whoa. Look at this guy. Look at the muscles on this guy. Just hit him in the shoulder. Hurt my hand. It's like hitting a rock. That's great. Thomas, that's fantastic. I hate good-looking men.
Yeah, Yep. There we go. I find this guy quite funny, to be clear. Like, but this is what I mean. It's at most a bit funny that he's quite gay. But, like, you have to appreciate that, like, it's not meaningful political analysis. Like, he's a patriarch, right? He's a very patriarchal, very misogynistic man. Is he a bit gay? Is he possibly even attracted to men? Yeah. Yeah, clearly. Like, yes. And it's a bit funny because he's quite camp with it, and that's something that is, like, quite funny about him. At the same time, like, it's so not meaningful political analysis unless you're willing to point out that, like, society's general, like, insistence upon pushing away anything that might seem a bit gay leaves them blind to what's going on here, right? This is meaningful political analysis, that like Trump and like misogynistic fascists like him, patriarchal fascists like him, love when men are muscular because they like strong men. They like for men to be strong, to do dominating, right? That's from their perspective, that's the point of men. This shit just pisses me off, man. Okay. Branson Gates, an actor and social media personality, has become known for his Instagram video. They're just describing the video we just watched. They're just the guy, right? Like, when you have a crush on a guy named Steven. Okay, let's watch this one too. Did they write this article just so they could like show us some of this guy's videos? Is that the bit here? Like they just wanted to show some of this guy's videos. It kind of feels like.
Back in the audience right there. I'd love to have him. I love watching him on television. I'd love to have him come up and explain his true feelings, but maybe not his truest feelings. That might be going a little bit too far. But Stephen, thank you for doing an unbelievable job. And the people of this country love you, I'll tell you, and they love what you say about crime. I want to thank Stephen Miller, who's right back in the audience right there. I'd love to have him. I love watching him on television. I'd love to have him come up and explain his true feelings, but maybe not his truest feelings. That might be going a little bit too far. But Stephen, thank you for doing an unbelievable job. And the people of this country love you, I'll tell you, and they love what you say about crime.
I mean, again, it's just like Kioshine says, can you fetishize masculinity as much as they do without it coming off as a bit gay? This is what I'm saying, like homo-fascism, just Google homo-fascism and do a bit of reading about it. It's like a very, very, very well-known, well-trodden topic in like cultural analysis around fascism, is that like, okay, what I said earlier about excesses, right? So we have ideology, and then we have excesses to ideology. So there's an idioform. There is a ideological socius that's the base of people who buy into and practice and perpetuate an ideology, and that base has to be within something that's considered normal and fine. And then there are people who receive the messaging of the ideology that they're all within and like carry it out to its logical endpoint. And fascists, out of like an imperialist society, are a perfect example of this. Like they're one of the most perfect examples that you can show. Like I would say, incels are to patriarchy as like border obsessed racists are to like white supremacist society. Like there are normal levels of like considered normal levels of ideological like programming for people, like levels of ideological marination almost, and then there's people who like fully take on what they understand the ideology to be about and take it again to its logical extremes. I'm always saying that like Wayne Couzens, the high-profile case of that Metropolitan Police officer who used his police powers to detain a woman and then raped her and killed her and set her body on fire, like he's an excess of what's going on in the Metropolitan Police. The Metropolitan Police in London are known for their sexism, their racism, their fascist attitudes. They're fucking cops, right? And they're known for being creeps as well, and for abusing their power. And other members of the Met had been calling him the rapist as a nickname because of what a fucking freak he was, right? But he's an example of an excess from the system of the Metropolitan Police. Similarly, everything going on in American society as America loses global power is on Trump's side, on the MAGA side, like, is this production of masses of people in the excess. They are in the excess of what was already the American, like, social, cultural, normal ideology. They were already in that, the American religion of oil, and there were things that were considered natural and invisible and didn't need to be explained or justified. And as America loses power and more people become, like, deeply invested in, like, defending that power and violent about it, they are becoming this excess. And that's the MAGA movement. And where this has happened with, like, collapsing societies turning into fascism, homo-fascism is not a surprising thing to see because, again, super patriarchal men only value other men and their strength, their power, their ability to dominate, and it's all pretty fucking gay. Okay. So, this whole paragraph, it's just explaining Branson Gates, the guy who we watched a couple of reels from. In his perhaps best-known video, aptly titled, "Trump was born to be a gay man," Gates reprises Trump's comments at an October 2020 campaign rally. "I'll kiss every guy, man and woman," Gates as Trump says, complete with sexually suggestive winks, eye rolls, and light shimmies. Is Ashley Parker just a fag hag? Is this why she's written this? Like, she's just a bit obsessed with gay men. This feels so gross. Sorry, this actually just sucks. Look at that guy, how handsome he is. I'll kiss him, not with a lot of enjoyment, but that's okay. End quote. In a March Fox News interview, Trump was asked about the sexuality of Iran's leader, the sort of highly sensitive question that nearly any other president would have handled with the utmost care. Instead, Trump somehow pivoted to how the Palestinian regime is bad for gays. Who are the gays for Palestine, he mused, and later laughingly noted that one of his rally songs, YMCA by the Village People, is considered the gay national anthem. "I did very well with the gay vote, okay?" he told the hosts. The gay vote is a difficult thing to measure, although a variety of polls found that in both the 2020 and 2024 elections, Trump did have some gay support. However, a majority of voters who identified as queer preferred his Democratic opponents. Paul Baker, the author of Camp, The Story of the Attitude That Conquered the World, told me over email that when it comes to Trump, making a distinction between camp and campy is important. The latter is the more self-conscious, ironic adoption of camp. But Trump is the original pure form. It's when someone's behavior is outrageous, excessive, subversive, and unintentionally funny, he said. The person doesn't realize they're funny or that they're camp. They're just being themselves. The risk, he continued, is when camp becomes a distraction from the president's actual policies. What you mean, like, this entire article? Are you kidding me? This is driving me fucking bonkers. Such as executive orders and actions that could negatively affect LGBTQ health. You are writing in the Atlantic. Okay. Upon returning to office, for instance, Trump rescinded non-discrimination protections for LGBTQ youth in school, which advocates say could worsen their mental health. Laugh at him on Instagram all you like, but don't let that take away oxygen from crucial topics like electoral reform, protecting democracy, gun control, immigration, healthcare, and access to education in the US, Baker concluded in his email to me. Kerchick's husband, Joseph Palermo, was the Kennedy Center's first curator of visual arts, until he was laid off after Trump took control of the cultural institution. Yes, that's the Donald Trump and the JFK Center for Culture. Is it Center for the Arts? Before Palermo lost his job last year, the two attended the Kennedy Center Honors, which Trump hosted, and Kerchick discovered that he prefers Trump more as a gala MC than as a political leader. Kerchick said that Trump was great in the role, describing him as a combination of Joan Rivers and Don Rickles. He added wistfully, I wish he could just do that. And that's the whole article. There you go. Trump gay. Trump gay. Got him. Game over, you know? That's all there is to it after that. Chat, what did you think of this article? Oh my god. That's what's bad about Trump, you know. It's that he's a bit gay. It's that he's a bit gay, but he's mean to the gays. He's a mean gay, even mean to his own people, the gays, of which he is one. Wow, what a waste of everyone's time and space. Yeah, to be honest, but that's the Atlantic through and through, right? Whew. Methinks the author is a mean gay. No, I think she's really into like gay men and sassiness and cattiness, and it's like in a way that some women are, and it's very, very, very tiresome. Especially if you are in fact not a gay man, and they are trying to apply that lens to you, in which case it's like actually quite offensive and upsetting. Okay. I'm very, very tired. I'm very, very, very tired. I'm very exhausted from a very long week of organizing on the estate. I have one more article. I just want to check the length of it. I would encourage everyone, once again, to tip if you've been enjoying the stream, consider supporting the stream. Is it a long one? Ooh, chat, I want to read this, but you got a tip, okay? Because if I read all of this and I'm this tired, I will be pretty bummed. Rose says, genuinely think the author just wanted to plug the lip sync videos. I do kind of think, like, I kind of think, like, she saw those videos, she found them funny, she wanted to write an article that kind of, like, highlighted that and talked around the topic of Trump's a bit gay. That is how it felt. It, like, that's so incredibly nothingy, you know? So this again points to like what I was saying earlier. It's so warm here. This again points to what I was saying earlier, that like Trump being the most important man in the entire world is this like quite all-consuming principle of like people who talk about Trump. It just all has to be like analyzing him, understanding him. He contains some kind of special secret, and it's just like you're looking at a system that prefers a system that benefits like cult of personality logic. Like you're looking at a system that wants to have like one like cult-like leader. And so you're just buying into the system's ideology itself when you put like when you give him this kind of level of power in your own mind. And like you say, like, you know, this is clearly the guy, understanding what went wrong with him. Like, oh, did Hitler's mother not, you know, treat him right or in some way, raise him right? Like, all this, it's just like, no, man, it's not some lady's fault. You know, no, it's not to do with the individual psychology of this person. No, art school and the Holocaust do not have some kind of intrinsic, like historically determinist link between them. Like the system and cultural conditions that upheld Hitler as a leader are conditions and systems that use this cult like this cult of personality logic that prefers like certain types of leader. And the same thing is going on with Trump. Oof. Middle of Marxist says true. It's like the morning TV pinheads who try and wonder what his fourth dimensional thinking is when he doesn't even have a second one. He is greed. Greed is good. Yeah, I mean, again, like, we have to, I think it's, as I said earlier, like, it's good to not just think of him as being, like, completely dumb. He's not just, like, completely without, like, two brain cells to rub together. It's reasonable to give him sort of, like, the motivations that we can see he has. And yeah, most of the time those motivations are just greed. He has just, like, actually very, like, fairly one-track approach to a lot of stuff. I think there are a lot of people who talk as if, like, any day now, he's gonna meet the right opponent who understands just how dumb he is, and they're gonna paint a tunnel on the side of a cliff, and he's gonna run and smack right into it. Like, it's just he's not actually, like, subhumanly stupid as people go out of their way to try and make him out to be. Like, he is. All these people would be so much more free from a lot of stuff if they could see that he is just, like, not that unique a guy. Okay. Chat. I think I might wrap it up. I'm very, very tired. It's been a super intense week. As I said, next week I'm not going to stream because I am going to be doing relaxing, calming, fun, nice birthday things. We are going to raid into someone. Who are we going to raid into? Probably Lucky Bun. If you like my work, you're not going to see me for a couple of weeks. I will be carrying on with my writing and hopefully uploading some new essays. If you'd like to see those early, you can subscribe to my Patreon. But I won't be here next week, so check out all my links. You know where to find them. The linktree.ee/Sophie from Mars. And when you have all my links, you can use them to support my work and share my work around, which also helps me out if you don't have money to give or have already given me money. Okay. Shirara says, the Patreon is great. Everyone join the Patreon. Thank you, Shirara. Oh, also, I don't know if I said this earlier, but I wrote a long update about what's going on with the landlord stuff on the Patreon. So if you want to read that, like, all in one place, that's a good place to go do it. Toasty, thank you so much for the £3 dono. Come on, chat. Sophie deserves it for powering through that last article. That's very sweet of you. I'm going to raid now, so chat, you'll no longer be able to use the tip link. But VOD watchers, the VOD's about to end. Check out the links below and support me. And chat, go find my links if you do want to support me as well. Okay, good night, everyone. Let's all make our favorite animal noises as we raid into Lucky Bun's stream. Good night.